Be a Killer from a Full-Time Hunter Chapter 181-200. Chapter 181 _ Kurapika knows. Facing Yi, he had no chance of winning. After all, he gave up the idea of revenge against Yi. Now, she is not the only one by her side. Xiaoji and Qi are also factors that she needs to take into consideration. There was only one thing she didn't understand. Now she was using Lingham's body. How did he tell the difference between the two? Aside. Yi didn't immediately answer Kurapika's doubts. He walked directly past Xiaoji and Kiju to the bed and looked at Hisoka, who was covered in blood. Able to escape from the hands of all members of the Phantom Troop. It has to be said that Hisoka is very strong. Crack tilde. Snapped his fingers. The two figures condensed out of thin air. Nian Beast Elabella and Ning Beast Lingham. Elbera's body is no different from that of a human, but it has the characteristics of a Zerg. It was the first time they saw it, and they couldn't help but be a little curious. It can be seen when the second Nian Beast is seen. Everyone's eyes widened, and their expressions were particularly shocked. Especially Kurapika, looking at the Mind Beast with exactly the same body as his current body, a little sluggish. Subconsciously, he took a few steps forward. Come to the side of this beast. Compare the difference between the two. However, the comparison results did not make any difference. Nian Beast's dull eyes without light made Kurapika inexplicably fearful. Yi glanced at the shocked four and gave an order to Elabella. Elabella, heal Hisoka. Reached out to Hisoka. Before entering the room, Yi felt Susanoo's dying vitality, and was infinitely close to death. If there is no external force to change, today is his death. Hearing Yi's order, Elabella walked to Hisoka's side. Right hand raised, chain of healing with thumb. A chain extended from the ring on the thumb, in Hisoka's direction. With the input of Reiatsu, Hisoka, who was seriously injured in a coma on the bed, gradually recovered. In the end, only blood and stains remained, clinging to the surface of the body. Thumb's chain of healing, instant healing, works on others. In the face of Hisoka, who was seriously injured and on the verge of death, Yi directly asked Elabella to use this ability. This made Kurapika, who was watching from the side, clench his fists subconsciously. Yi, if I'm not mistaken, this should be my ability. The hoarse voice sounded again. He questioned the ability Elbera was using at this time. Kurapika regained consciousness and successfully controlled this body. Then he realized that he had lost his former ability, the chain. There are only symbiosis and the glory of the traitor that she cannot accept. It is absolutely impossible for her to eat human flesh. It is even more impossible for her to be a traitor. In order to regain her fighting ability, she has been trying to develop new abilities. Using a chain that has been used for a long time is naturally the primary goal of development. The chain has been developed once, and she knows its development process, as well as the corresponding oaths and restrictions. But several attempts have ended in failure. This puzzled her. When she saw the ability Elabella used, she seemed to understand something. It turns out that her ability has always been there, but only on the beast in front of her. The spoils of killing Graham. Glancing at Kurapika, it was a warning to her. Open black lens bracket symbiosis close black lens bracket. Yi didn't know how to use this ability. Kurapika is completely devoured by Grim, allowing Grim to use the former's abilities and fiery eyes. This is within the rules of competence. The past can be said. But after Graham died, Kurapika, who lived with her, took control of Graham's body instead. This left him unable to understand how the ability worked. Of course, Yi was just curious. This answer silenced Kurapika. Indeed, with his own tactics and abilities, he designed Grimham and took the ability of Chain from her. It's his own gain. As the beneficiary of this matter, Kurapika has no right to prevent him from obtaining the spoils. Quite a while. Kurapika turned and sat down on the sofa, not thinking about the chain thing. Flowers. She is no match for Yi Yi. Judging from Yi Yi's attitude, he doesn't intend to give up the ability of open black lens bracket chain close black lens bracket. Helpless, she can only choose to redevelop other abilities. As the weak, you can only obey the will of the strong. Unfortunately, in front of Yi Yi, she is weak. This experience is really interesting tilde. A magnetic voice came from behind everyone. The magnetic sound instantly attracted everyone's attention. Only Yi Yi looked at Hisoka. I don't know if it's an illusion. As Elbera recovered him, the mind in his body increased by a point. I thought the new members died just like that, but I didn't expect to turn into Kurapika. What an accident. 0. Hisoka's injuries have all recovered. He jumped off the bed and came to Kurapika's side to look at her current condition. Especially the 0 spider tattoo under the left eye. Even inherited the brigade tattoo, it's really interesting tilde. He is very interested in the resurrection of Kurapika. Kurapika's fiery red eyes that had just faded were stimulated by Hisoka. The thoughts on his body began to churn. Always be ready to get your hands dirty. Xiaoji and Liu Li on the side were caught off guard. Only the strange ostrich hangs the dumplings. Casually watching Kurapika's unilateral killing intent. It's more interesting to me than Kurapika, like the Phantom Troop. Icy voice. Reminds everyone of the existence of the night. At the same time, he was curious about what he said about the brigade. After Xiaoji and Cheating Zhao realized the true face of the brigade, they were naturally curious about them. Kurapika, on the other hand, heard that it was related to his enemy, and subconsciously paid attention. Only Liu Li didn't care much about the Phantom Troop. After all, he has no real contact with these people. The only way to meet is to assist Xiaoji and Chi Dumpling. Trying to get a high bounty. The brigade. I see. Hisoka heard the brigade and began to introduce his plan. Sun. Chapter 182 Hisoka joined the Phantom Brigade in order to fight Crollo. But the rules of the brigade limited him. Infighting is forbidden among the group members, which prevents him from fighting Crollo. This event made him see the hope of fighting Crollo. With Kurapika joining in, he believes that he will be able to complete the goal of fighting against Crollo this time. But one after another, the brigade came up with the idea of ending the event. After all, the goal of this time is to get all the treasures from the underground auction. This is not good news for Hisoka. The gathering time of the tour group is uncertain, usually every few years. If the next chance to fight Crollo will have to wait a few years, he can't bear it. Think for a long time. In the end, he decided to assassinate the members of the brigade, attracting their hatred and making them unable to leave Ukexen City like this. Hisoka is an activist. The moment I thought of this method. When the members of the brigade were disbanded, the assassination operation was carried out. Because of the transaction with the 12 earthly branches, Cube had to go to the drug company on his stomach. This, however, became the cause of his death. Hisoka killed Cube with a single blow before he could react. Of course, he has his own ideas about this. The blood vines copied by Kube can recover almost all injuries, which is not good for subsequent actions. Dealing with him is the first priority. Fortunately, the plan went unexpectedly well. Siso deliberately took a photo of himself and Kube's body and sent it to all the brigade members. What followed was the pursuit of all members of the brigade. In order to maximize the anger of the brigade, he deliberately hired Ilmi to pretend to be himself and prepare to kill another member. Divide the brigade members into 2 waves. A wave of Phaetons, Finks, Pike Norda, Flake Lev, Maggie headed by Crollo. A wave of Shouty, Franklin, Wojin, Nobunaga led by the Knight. Ilmi attracted several members of the brigade headed by Crollo. Hisoka faced the Knight and others by himself. At the cost of being seriously injured, he resisted Shouty's attack and solved her. And take this opportunity to escape from the encirclement of the brigade. The experience of being surrounded made him understand that, surrounded by all spiders, he might have a problem even surviving. He desperately needed a strong ally. The moment the idea came up, Yi came to mind for the first time. That's why I called Yi earlier. The two sides reached a cooperation, and Hisoka lost consciousness. Hisoka spoke very comprehensively, revealing his own plans and entrusting Ilmi. Yi and the brigade have hatred, and there is a prerequisite for mutual cooperation. So he contacted Yi. This information was specifically told to Yi. As for Xiaoji and Qiqi, who were on the side, they were not qualified to participate in this matter. It doesn't matter whether you listen or not. It is very exciting to escape under the pursuit of the brigade tilde. Hisoka's smile seemed a little perverted. Recalling the experience of escape made him a little unable to restrain his desire to fight. Unfortunately, Yi was not interested in his experience of being hunted down. Current situation. The Phantom Troop has acquired the treasures of this underground auction. But 3 members of the group died in a row, 2 of them were killed by their own people. The members of the brigade were full of anger. Abandon the dissolution and take revenge on Hisoka. But no one can tell whether this is a momentary brain fever or a thorough plan. Yi's closed eyes opened. He looked at Hisoka with a sharp-edged gaze. After half an hour, start hunting spiders. With Maha Punch, squeeze the spirit out of the body. The increase brought by the dissolution is only temporary. After the release, the situation where the spiritual pressure was exhausted was restored. Going to the brigade in this state is not revenge, but a proper gift. There's Glingham, remodeled today. Yi was not worried about the brigade running away. The tattoo under her left eye was tattooed by Maggie with her own thoughts. Even if it is only in the form of a beast. But it was enough for Yi to find Maggie and the other spider members. Feeling the exhausted spiritual pressure in the body, Yi felt a little helpless. Although the evolution of Benyu avoided his own death. But it severely limited his strength. Simply, Elabella's Reiatsu ball came in handy at this moment. In the 10 old man meeting venue. Among the nearly 100 people with the ability to read the gang, most of them were extracted by Elabella and converted into spiritual pressure balls for storage. Half an hour later, the spiritual pressure ball was used up. The spiritual pressure in Yi's body has only recovered by 1/5. But that's enough. He believed that even if only 1/5 of the Reiatsu was restored, the Phantom Troop could be eliminated. Phantom Troop is an A-level robber organization, although all members will use the ability to think. But everyone is good at different directions. There are only a few people in the brigade who are good at fighting. Most of them are auxiliary abilities. The reason why they agreed to the joint plan with Hisoka was more just in case. The hunter world has never been a world where hard power can survive. Sometimes, relying on weirdness and rules, it is possible to kill a powerful person. According to Yi's observation, there does not seem to be a lack of such abilities in Crollo. If you encounter such an ability in battle, it's best if someone else can take it. Yi slowly opened his eyes. Retreat from meditation out. Beside. It was Hisoka who had taken a bath and finished eating. He is different from Yi. There is no collapsing jade on his body to absorb the energy in his body. The mind recovery in the body is almost the same, at least there is no problem in normal fighting. Thinking of his chance to fight Crollo, he couldn't contain his excitement. To this, Yi asked Elabella to use her ring finger to reach for the spider tattoo under Gringham's left eye. Next moment, the spear emerges in Yi's hands. Cross cut through the sky. Cracks appeared in the air. Yi and Hisoka walked towards the crack. Spider hunt, begin. It's just that he didn't expect that at the moment when the crack was about to close. Kurapika rushed in resolutely. Chapter 183_ Ukexen. Inside an abandoned building. Several figures treated the wounds on their bodies with the drugs they had snatched. That bastard, Hisoka, has been hiding for a few years. If he hadn't taken the initiative this time, I don't know how long he would have been hiding. Maggie was standing beside Woking. The wound on his left arm was sutured with sutra. Wojin ignored the pain when his left arm was sutured, and his face was now full of anger. As an ability person of the strengthening system, he has the common problem of all strengthening systems, a tendon. Usually the most concerned about is punctuality and the companions around. It can be said that these are the two most fancy points in his life. However, what happened today made him extremely angry. A terrifying murderous aura erupted from his body. If Hisoka was in front of him at this time, he would definitely tear Hisoka to shreds. Wojin. Nobunaga beside him called out Wojin's name aloud. This shout made him regain his composure. We will never forget the death of Kube and Shouty. At the same time, you must not let down any vigilance. Hisoka's strength is far more exaggerated than you and I imagined. The bottom half of Nobunaga's left leg had disappeared. This is when he is cut off by playing cards while dodging Hisoka's attack. The thoughts attached to it, even if he is a person with the ability to strengthen the system, can't stop it. That's why he called Wojin. If Wojin meets Hisoka in such a irrational state, it was definitely Wojin who died. He, Nobunaga Kachama, has only Wojin's best friend in this world. I can't just watch this scene happen. Looking at Nobunaga, who lost the lower half of his left leg, he could only sit cross-legged on one leg at the moment. Wojin is silent. In pursuit of Hisoka, the part that was cut off by the playing cards is lost somewhere. Maggie can't stitch now either. Watching my friends become what they are today. I don't know how to vent the anger in my heart. Aside, Franklin leaned against the wall quietly, although he was not seriously injured. But the death of the members seems to have affected his mood. I don't want to say a word. The knight looked at the monitor through the computer, looking for Hisoka's figure. The scene became quiet for a while. All that's left is the sound of the mouse clicking every now and then. He didn't realize that he and others had been locked. 3 kilometers in the air. Yaiki expanded Reiatsu perception to the limit of 5 kilometers. Any disturbance within this range could not escape his perception. 5 people, good luck. The situation in the abandoned building in the distance is already clear under this exaggerated perception. In the abandoned building, there are 5 members of the Phantom Troop. Yi recalled the information about these people. They are Wojin, Nobunaga, Franklin, Knight, and Maggie. Among them, Wojin, Nobunaga, and Franklin are considered combat members. Wojin, who strengthens the ability to link the mind, is the main combat member of the brigade. Nobunaga, a person who strengthens the ability, is good at using swordsmanship. He was once arrested by Yi, and he is also the main combat member of the brigade. Franklin, a person who releases the ability, is good at using bullets, and has a certain degree of hand-to-hand combat ability. A knight, a person with the ability to operate the system, is responsible for processing and analyzing intelligence in the brigade, and attaching importance to theory over emotion. Maki, a person with the ability to change, can turn the energy into slender silk threads for attack or treatment, and can sew blood vessels, bones, nerves, and muscles 100% perfectly, and the brigade auxiliary personnel. Yi kept the information of these 5 people in his heart. At the moment when he was determined to take revenge, he collected all kinds of information about the Phantom Troop. Beside, it was Kurapika who ran in when the space rift was about to close. Looking at the same face as Glingham, Yi suddenly had a bad taste. If the brigade sees the dead Zero reappear, it must be fun. Certainly. It would be best if he could help block the gun when Crollo used his special abilities. At this time, Kurapika gave full play to the role of Shouting 666. Unexpectedly, to be able to directly stagnate in the air, such an ability is too exaggerated. 3 kilometers away. How do you perceive such a long distance? Are you trying to attack directly here? Impossible. Stop joking. It directly disturbed the perception of the night pair in the distance. Cold eyes cast aside. In an instant, the world was clean. The spear appeared out of thin air. A frivolous, poisonous snake, standing by in secret, looking for flaws. One blow is fatal. I am a snake. I have a cold skin and a thin heart. I use the tip of my tongue to hunt prey everywhere, and when I meet my favorite prey, I swallow it whole. A sharp gun, a Zanpakuto that attacks from a distance. The initial solution limit attack distance is 9 kilometers. D-solution. The limit attack distance is 13 kilometers. Near 3 kilometers is naturally not a problem. The moment the sharp gun appeared, it attracted Kurapika's attention. It was the first time she saw Yoichi use this dagger. Subconsciously, this dagger, like her chain, is the same. It is the product of the incarnation system. It's just that all her abilities are aimed at spiders. It's unclear where Yoichi's short sword was developed. Just thinking of the distance at this time made her have some guesses. Space system ability. Unfortunately, I didn't guess right. Yi pressed the spirit of his body to the magic spear in his hand. In Kurapika's shocked eyes, a white beam of light flashed across Yi's body. D-solution. Attack from a distance, pay attention to concealment. Yi deliberately restrained the leaked Reiatsu and controlled it tightly in his body. The sharp gun in his hand was aimed at Nobunaga in the abandoned building 3 kilometers away. Of the 5 spiders, he is the best to attack. The absence of his left leg greatly reduces his mobility. It's a perfect target. Since Crollo is not here, let's start collecting interest from these members. God kills the gun. The killing gun in Yi's hand turned into a silver-white light. He shot at Nobunaga, who was sensing Reiatsu. The surrounding air seemed to have been pierced by the god-killing spear, making a terrifying sound of breaking through the air. Puff. Feel the figure falling to the ground. A smile emerged from the corner of Yi's mouth. Chapter 184 Inside the abandoned building. Maggie quietly sutured Wojin's wound. Compared to the previous noisy state. After being calmed down by Nobunaga's words, the stitching work went smoothly. Only the wound formed by the last poker card behind him was left. Wojin obediently took off his coat. The moment it was thrown to the ground, a blade of white light flashed. Break the space. Click. Space begins to crumble. Pierce the sky. Click. The sky splits in two. Passed through the buildings. The buildings were completely torn apart. This knife is so sharp that no one seems to be able to resist it. Puff. The blood burst instantly. Nobunaga's yawning head burst open in an instant. A long knife extending from nowhere pierced Nobunaga's head. The terrifying impact made the long knife explode the moment it pierced the head. Facing an attack at 500 times the speed of sound, Nobunaga died before he could react. The house is also divided into 2 from their level. The upper half of the house slowly tilted down. The sun shines in this room. All of this happened very suddenly, and suddenly Wojin's coat had just landed. It's all over. Nobunaga's body lost control and fell powerlessly to the ground. Wojin was stunned. He couldn't imagine that Nobunaga, who was talking to him just now, died like this. The brother he lived with since he was a child died like this. Nobunaga. Wojin let out a roar. His mind went blank, and at this moment he didn't know what else he could do except call Nobunaga's name. The moment Nobunaga fell to the ground, Knight, Maggie, and Franklin reacted. A roll ran out of this room. This position has been exposed, and it is absolutely impossible to continue to stay. At the same time, the enemy who assassinated Nobunaga was also exposed by this long sword. Only by hiding on the other side of the abandoned building can you avoid the secret attack. The 3 of them thought of a way to escape. Looking at Wojin, who was still roaring in place, Machi frowned slightly. The thread in his hand flew out quickly, wrapped around him, and pulled him towards him. The brigade in Nobunaga had already killed 3 members, and she couldn't just watch Wojin die. The moment Wojin was torn apart, the mysterious blade inserted into his position just now. A huge pothole appeared. Maggie's movements were a millisecond slower, and Wojin had already been penetrated through her body at this time. Maggie, quick! Franklin smashed the wall beside him, found a slightly larger wall, and threw it behind Maggie. Attempt to obscure the enemy's sight. However, Yi smiled 3 kilometers away. If the god-killing gun can be stopped by a piece of cement, what is the use of the impact force at 500 times the speed of sound? You know, the god-killing spear is so powerful that it can cut down several tall buildings at once. A mere wall, isn't he underestimating him too much? The god-killing gun penetrated the wall directly. God-killing gun stretches, not just stretches. Speed is both power. This sentence perfectly describes the power of the god-killing gun at this time. At the same time that it penetrated the wall, the god-killing spear also penetrated Maki behind the wall, and went directly through the building. Blood spewed out of his mouth. The right-hand line quickly dragged Wojin, and threw him in the direction of Franklin and others. The knight threw something on the plane. He looked at the long knife that pierced through his abdomen. The eyes are fierce. Puff. The body swerved to the right. The god-killing gun broke out of the body directly. A large amount of blood flowed from the severed abdomen. However, Maggie didn't have time to pay attention to it, and covered the wound with her hand. Run quickly to the back of the building. This made Yi a little admired. As expected of a woman born in Meteor Street. Faced with the blade that binds him, he chooses to cut through his body. Made the same choice as Mahabane. Pity. The god-killing spear, which was retracted in an instant, was missing a blade. In the face of the nurse of the Phantom Troop, Yi naturally wouldn't hold back. The toxins that can dissolve cells were left in Maggie's body. Shoot him, god-killing gun. Ma-Chi, who was running, fell to the ground. The right abdomen was cut open by the sharp gun, and there was a sudden explosion, and the flesh and blood disappeared out of thin air. Blood and fragments of organs splattered on Wojin's face. The body struggled feebly for a moment, trying to suture the wound with thought thread. But half of her abdomen disappeared out of thin air, and even she couldn't fix it. Noticing this, he raised his head and looked at the 3 of them. Quick, run, or I'll die here. Maggie's body was helpless and fell to the ground. The blood that kept flowing out of the abdomen formed a pool of blood. The knight and Franklin on the side ignored Maggie's body. Look at each other. Franklin quickly ran in the direction of Yi's S-shaped way while running, reducing the chance of being attacked. The distance to Yi is an open space without any cover. He knew that he would turn his back on the enemy. Is a stupid decision. Running away will only hasten death. A distance of 3 kilometers, for a person of their level, it takes only 10 seconds to run with all their strength. After Wojin reacted, he directly picked up the gravel caused by the attack of the killing gun from the side. Wrapped Nyan and threw it in the direction of Yi. Throwing away all the rubble, they rushed away together. At the same time, remarkable, Franklin put his hands in the air. A thought projectile like a Gatling shot out. Although the distance between him and Yi is very far. Only a small black spot can be seen. But it didn't prevent him from launching an attack, disturbing Yi's sight. Only the knight quickly evacuated into the distance. He was not a combatant per se. In the face of this sudden attack, it is natural to save lives. 3 kilometers away in the air. Feel the constant stream of thoughts hitting him. Yi has to say that this method really works. In his perception, these thought bullets formed an unbreakable barrage. Hide their breath under this barrage. It's a pity that Yi didn't lose his senses, so he couldn't attack them. The 81 boundaries, breaking the space. A huge wall of ghosts completely defended the thought bullets that came to him. Occupy. Chapter 185 _ The body of the god-killing gun was retracted. looking at the two people who were approaching. It's really bothering you to come all the way to die. His voice was cold, like a poisonous snake. Reiatsu gathered towards the god-killing spear in his hand. The tip of the knife was aimed at the two who were running. God-killing gun Buddha Renkin. The next moment, a meteor shower performed by the killing gun appeared in the sky above the abandoned building. Moment. Su tilde. Yi kept firing the deadly gun in his hand and retracted it, firing it thousands of times in an instant. Like a meteor shower, throwing unstoppable meteors at them in the sky. Franklin's bullets were indeed exaggerated, but by comparison, Yi's attack was even more terrifying. This is an oversized attack. For a time, the whole space seemed to be shattered. The earth trembled, and the space was cut open. Under the endless offensive, the dust that covered the sky and the sun rose spontaneously. Looking at the constantly attacking dagger in Yi's hand, Kurapika fell into a brief moment of confusion. So powerful, yet possessing such a terrifying ability. At the Nuthra houses what D showed just a part of his strength. In the Sametali building, was that attack just a casual blow? Why, everyone is obviously in their teens. What have I been doing all these years? Yi didn't know Kurapika's thoughts. Just frowned slightly. In his perception, the two auras dissipated, and the remaining one was stronger. This is somewhat unexpected. Ah! A roar suddenly spread from the dust. With this roar, the dust that blocked his vision dispersed. The land that was ravaged by God's killing guns reappeared in front of Yi. Riddled with holes. Whether it's the desolate open space or the figure staggering to the ground. It can only be described with the word riddled with holes. Franklin's body has been covered with countless wounds. Blood flowed from these wounds on his body. The huge body not only brought him great strength, but also brought him bigger force area. Buddha Lianran attacked him hundreds of thousands of times in an instant. He was able to hold out until the end of the attack, which really surprised Yaiki. However, what made Yi even more unexpected was Wojin, who was hiding behind Franklin. Obviously, the attack of the god-killing gun is a penetrating attack. When hitting Franklin, it also pierces his body. Wojin, who was hiding behind Franklin, should have been attacked as well. Wojin, this guy, I'll leave it to you. Looking at Franklin, who fell weakly to the ground, what he said to himself before the attack sounded in Wojin's mind. Anger. This is the fifth companion who died in front of him today. Nobunaga's headless appearance, Makina's blood hole in her abdomen, and Franklin's now riddled corpse. His anger ignited completely. The figure begins to compress. The height of nearly 3 meters has gradually become only 1 meter 80. Relatively. The energy in his body swelled rapidly. An invisible strong wind condensed around him. The pure white thoughts quickly turned into pitch black appearance. The whirlwind gathered under his feet, and exaggerated momentum emanated from his body. The pressure that made Kurapika feel terrifying suddenly came from Wojin. What a powerful momentum! Is this the real strength of the brigade? Looking at Wojin below, Kurapika murmured absent-mindedly. The underground auction was attacked a few days ago. She tried to kidnap Wojin, who was under the control of neurotoxins. Unfortunately, with the intervention of the brigade members, the plan failed. Now, when I see Wojin's terrifying strength, I understand how ridiculous I was back then. Nightwing frowned slightly. Wojin's aura went across several levels. It is almost the same as his strength. Think of the thought that turned into pitch black on the body. And the sudden change in his body reminded him of the bug in this system. Constraints and oaths. Bug that can strengthen the ability person dozens of times, naturally also has contact with Yi. Open black lens bracket. The action time of the killer close black lens bracket. A hat is embodied, and the shape is self-designed. With the hat as the center, a field of action spreads around. In the field of action, the flow of time moves forward or backward according to the wishes of the capable person. Usage restrictions. 1. The domain range is calculated based on the maximum perception range of the person with the ability. 2. In the field, the flow of time cannot act on objects other than those who are capable. When this ability is developed, it can only act on the person with the ability, and cannot affect other people or things. In order to make up for this defect, Yi thought of constraints and vows. Constraints and oaths. No sense-related senses are to be used while the ability is in use. Enhancement. The change of the time flow rate in the field can act on all objects in the field, and the energy required to change the flow rate of the object depends on the energy intensity and flow rate of the object to be changed. Breach of oath. Death of the able. The power of this ability is that with the help of the oath and restriction, it will only be able to act on the ability of the knight itself, and can act on all objects in the domain. It can be said that without restraint and oath, this ability can only be used as its own accelerator. Judging from the leap-forward strengthening of Wojin below, there is a high probability that conditions such as longevity or physical function have been used in exchange for strong strength. Yi's guess was not wrong. Seeing the constant deaths of the brigade members, Wojin knew that his chances of surviving were not high. Rather than just die like this, it's better to fight before you die. At the cost of his life, he has borrowed a powerful strength. According to Wojin's own estimation, although it can only be used for 10 minutes at most. But for him, it was enough. Bastard, I will never spare you. In constant sprint. He had already crossed the distance of 3 kilometers and came to the bottom of Yi. Bend over and insert your hands toward the ground. A huge rock was dug out of the ground abruptly. The thought wrapped in terror was thrown to Yi. This terrifying stone instantly shot at Yi like a cannonball. Chapter 186 _ Wojin threw the stone at Yi at the same time. The thoughts on his body gathered violently towards his legs. The leg muscles began to expand continuously. The body squatted slightly. Boom .. Wojin's figure disappeared instantly. Shoot in the direction of Yi in the sky. The ground beneath his feet collapsed rapidly under this terrifying force. The collapsed cracks are corrugated and radiate around 10 to 10 meters. Frowned tightly. He acts as the spider's other brain. Naturally, you can see Wojin's current state. Half an hour, no, for such an improvement, there are at most 10 minutes. Looking at Wojin's half-condensed figure, he guessed that he could not maintain this state for a long time. Take your phone out of your pocket. He used his abilities without hesitation. Open black lens bracket. Carry the fate of others. Close black lens bracket. When evacuating from the abandoned building, he subconsciously threw an antenna at Woking. This is the tool he uses to manipulate. As long as the antenna is plugged in, anyone can be manipulated by him. Controlling objects has nothing to do with strength. At this time, the antenna was still stuck on Wojin's body. The knight is a manipulator with the ability Puppet Phone. There is a mode called Automatic Combat Mode. This ability was originally developed by him to save his life. Using it for others will cause great harm to the body. But in Wojin's current state, 10 minutes is his last lifespan. It doesn't seem to matter whether this ability is used or not. Far away. Wojin jumped into the air, although his heart was full of anger. Instead, he remained calm at the moment. Sudden. There was a burst of heat from his neck, and this familiar feeling made him subconsciously glance into the distance. Pity. No companion was found. But how could Wojin forget this familiar ability? Cut. In the last 10 minutes, I have to be manipulated. He opened his mouth to complain. Willingly accepted the knight's control. Unfortunately, he jumped into the air forcefully, and the air poured into his mouth. Slurred speech. Automatic operation mode, open. Close black lens bracket. A voice came from the knight's phone. Wojin's eyes that flew in the air became dull and dull. The thoughts exchanged for restraint and oath automatically appeared on the surface of his body. Start another lift. Dark thoughts spewed out of his body, completely wrapping him. Let Yiki in the sky not be able to judge his situation. You can only feel his rising breath through spiritual pressure perception. This breath instantly surpassed Yi and reached a realm he had never reached before. Nien Beast Elabella can't compare to Wo Jin in this state. Jumping into the air with all his strength, Wo Jin came to Yi's side almost instantly. Yi could even see his angry face at this time. Unfortunately. Boom tilde tilde. Facing the raiding Wo Jin, Yi kicked him directly to his left waist. Even because the attack speed was too fast, a terrifying sonic boom emerged from behind him. Wo Jin was kicked by this test and kicked back to the ground directly from the air. Just while falling, a dark thread of thought on his left waist wrapped around Yi's right foot when he kicked him. Pull him out of the air together. This sudden change made Yi a little surprised. He did not expect that Wo Jin of the Enhancement Department would use the abilities of other departments after using the restriction and the oath. Yiki and Kurapika were quickly dragged from the air. Kurapika can stand in the air with Yoichi, relying on the Reiatsu that Yiki had attached to him. When Yi fell from the sky, she naturally fell with her. No matter how hard Yi had just kicked, the speed at which he fell would be several blocks. Looking at the receding scenery beside him, Yi did not panic. Right hand knife. Dash away at the thought that wraps you. While swiping away, Reiki flowed towards his hand. This thought was easily cut off. Bang tilde bang tilde. 3 figures fell to the ground. No, at the time one figure fell, and the other 2 fell safely. Wo Jin was kicked down by Yi Yisheng in the air. Can't find any leverage at all. Only to be smashed to the ground alive. Flowers. Of course, with his current strength, falling from such a height would still not hurt him. Kurapika's face was ugly. Wo Jin jumped up suddenly, she only saw Wo Jin squatting. When Wo Jin arrived in front of him, before she could even react, Wo Jin was kicked to the ground by Yi. This Gringham body only lost the ability to chain. Mindfulness and physical fitness have not changed. Reciting, applying skills, and the martial arts she has learned are etched in memory. It can be said that although she changed a body, her strength did not have much impact. Even so, she did not sense Wo Jin's arrival. Standing beside Yi, Kurapika couldn't help but smile bitterly. 0. At such a level of battle, I was very reluctant to even watch it, let alone participate in the battle. Have you not used your full strength before? Damn, why is the gap so big? Kurapika clenched his fists tightly. Nails tucked into palms. But it was far less than the unwilling pain in my heart. Moment. The dust from the fall from high altitude dissipated. Wo Jin's figure reappeared. But seeing his figure again made Yi frown. The dark thoughts on the surface of Wo Jin's body were completely contracted in the body. His hair stood up like a Super Saiyan in memory. Although it seems that it is no different from the appearance after the restriction and the oath, the feeling for Yoichi has changed. If it was an angry but irrational beast before. At this moment, his eyes are dull and dull, like a machine that has lost its personality and is controlled by people. Puppet, or other abilities. Investigated the brigade information, relying on a little memory. Yiki knew that the knight's ability was to control the enemy to fight. The state of Wo Jin at this time made Yi immediately think of knights. The Reiatsu perception continued to spread subconsciously. 5 kilometers of extreme perception. But did not feel the breath of the night. The night was getting colder. It has to be said that after solving Maggie, he did not solve the night in the first time. This was a mistake that shouldn't have happened. Sun. Chapter 187_. Yi looked at Wo Jin not far away. His expression became more serious. After the restriction and the oath, Wo Jin already has more strength than himself. Now being controlled by knights, his abilities have been increased again. The situation where Nobunaga, Maggie, and Franklin were easily resolved before will no longer appear. A few kilometers away. The knight watched the situation change with the binoculars. Open black lens bracket automatic operation mode close black lens bracket. It is not an ability that can be used easily. This ability was developed for itself, and it was used on others, and its use was very limited. To use it for others requires consuming all the thoughts of the body. And when using the automatic operation mode, he cannot move his body at will. Just stand in place. Now that he is exhausted, it can be said that only a pistol can easily deal with him in 210. But reading this system has always been that the greater the cost, the more terrifying the improvement. The knight devotes his whole body to his thoughts and loses his protection. Wojin was boosted by thoughts. The limitations of the brain on the body are completely opened, and the strength, speed, and mental ability are all fully utilized. And because it is an automatic attack mode, all his attacks are automatically launched by the body, it can be said that it has surpassed the brain, and all rely on instinct. This is somewhat similar to the self-reliance exercise. Yi put the killing gun in his hand in front of him. Compared to others Zanpakudo, the god-killing gun does not consume a lot of spiritual pressure. Cannot stand the use of many times. Came here in just 10 minutes. Yi has launched thousands of attacks with the killing gun. Even with a tenfold increase in spiritual pressure. At this moment, the spiritual pressure is almost consumed. Just take this opportunity to restore some spiritual pressure. Far away. Wojin walked out of the pothole smashed under him and looked at Yi with a dull expression. Next moment. The figure disappeared directly from the spot. Yi frowned and took a step back subconsciously. Boom tilde tilde. Wojin appeared in front of Yi in an instant, and slammed hard on the position where Yi had just stood. The ground suddenly shattered. Earth and rocks splashed all over the place. A pothole nearly 10 meters in size appeared in front of Yi. Wojin's speed at this time has surpassed Yi. To be able to dodge this punch, it is still relying on the spiritual pressure to perceive the movement of Wojin. Prepare in advance. Wojin missed a punch, got up and attacked Yi again. As before, only a fleeting effort. The figure of Wojin had already come to Yi. He met in the morning. He also increased his advantage in the battle at a speed that far surpassed that of Yi. Pity. In the face of such an enemy, Yi has the ability to specialize in restraint. Open black lens bracket the action time of the killer close black lens bracket. A black top hat appeared above Yi's head out of thin air. Killer's action time, start. The invisible field, centered on Yi, spreads out to 5 kilometers in an instant. Time flow rate -10 times. Wojin's fast-running figure suddenly slowed down. Of course, even if it gets slow, it's not something that ordinary people can achieve. While dodging the attack, he stabbed Wojin with the god-killing spear in his hand. Ding tilde tilde tilde. Yi felt as if he had hit something steely with the god-killer spear. The blade kept shaking. Yi's eyes changed slightly. The figure fades quickly. At the same time of receding, the effect on the flow rate of Woking time is cancelled. The energy required to change the flow velocity of an object depends on the energy intensity and flow velocity of the object to be changed. Yi changed the flow rate of Wojin's time by less than 0.1 seconds. But it directly consumes 10% of the thoughts in the body. Although Yi mainly uses spiritual pressure now, this kind of life breath will not be completely transformed into spiritual pressure, and it will disappear completely. It is the energy that grows and restores every day. Although the thoughts in Yi's body are not as exaggerated as before, they are also the same as the current Xiaoji, Shi Xiaojiao and Song Tuanmao. But just 0.1 seconds of change consumes so much thought. This shows how powerful Wojin is at this time. Wojin, who was relieved of the change in time flow rate, ignored a hole that appeared inexplicably on his body. Yes, just a mouthful. Yi used the killing gun to slash him hard, only creating a small hole. Not even a wound. In this regard, Yi's face is not good looking. Far away. Wojin's body flowed with thoughts, and the weak hole had healed. He looked up at night again. The thoughts gathered under the feet, and stepped out hard. The figure disappeared again. Entering the automatic operation mode, only kill the enemy, or the puppet dies. The fighting will stop. Right now, Yi Yi is not dead, and Wojin's battle is not over yet. Boom tilde. With the terrifying sound of sonic boom, Wojin disappeared again. This exaggerated speed, even if the spiritual pressure perception is now, it is impossible to accurately perceive Wojin's position. I do not know when the god-killing gun was changed to the left hand by Yi Yi. Look around cautiously. Always be ready to use time deceleration. Suddenly, a breath appeared on the left side of Yi Yi, and it was very close, and there was no chance to use the time to slow down. Poof! The sudden attack knocked Yi Yi into the air. The figure flying in mid-air, after spitting out a mouthful of blood, subconsciously twisted his body. Protect the vital parts. Boom tilde tilde. This punch directly hit Yi Yi at the exhaust gas building 3 kilometers away. After hitting the abandoned building, a huge pothole appeared. Wojin in automatic control mode. Seeing that the target was kicked away by himself, he subconsciously followed. Up. Constraint and oath bonus plus night automatic control mode bonus. The addition of the two allowed him to easily cross a distance of 3 kilometers. It takes less than a second. But it was also because of the automatic control mode that he lost consciousness. Let him not discover his current abnormal state. Time flow rate minus 30 times. Yi Yi's voice came from the abandoned building. At the same time, the 61 binding path 6 stand light prison. 6 pieces of light appeared out of thin air, imprisoning Wojin's actions. 62 boundaries, 100 steps longen. Several light rods appeared, pinning Wojin to the ground. 63 of the Tao of binding with a lock bar. A rope like a boa constrictor tightly binds Wojin. Chapter 188 The flow of time slowed down 30 times. Wojin in automatic control mode cannot be avoided at all. Just keep a forward stance. Bound by the quality 3. He kept twisting his body on the ground while waving his fists in Yoichi's direction. Pity. He was bound by a tie, and there was an abandoned building between the two. He couldn't attack Yi Yi at all. This action can only be repeated mechanically. Da, da, da. There was a sound of footsteps coming from the broken hole in the abandoned building. Yi Yi leaned against the wall and walked out with a pale face. In order to slow down Wojin's speed, he exhausted his whole body of mind to slow down the flow of time by 30 times. It made his face at the moment not good looking. Wojin's punch seriously injured him. 4 broken ribs. Organs are also damaged to varying degrees. He staggered to the side of Wojin. Without hesitation, the god-killing spear was aimed at Wojin's weakly defended neck. Goodbye, Woking. A cold voice came from Yi Yi's mouth. Next moment, the spiritual pressure on his body quickly condensed on the blade of the sharp gun in his hand. Not many Reiatsu with only 14 deposits. But enough to unleash several attacks. God-killing gun. Exaggerated roar. The clouds in the sky shattered in an instant, and the stones that fell from the surrounding abandoned buildings due to the impact of the night were all annihilated into debris. The cache in automatic control mode. It seemed that his life was threatened. All the thoughts in the whole body were concentrated on the neck at this moment. Flow, and, hard. Use of dual applied skills. Makes his defense to the extreme. The body's instinctive reaction actually made a defense directly before Yi Yi attacked. Ding tilde tilde tilde. Attacking like before, as if attacking some iron weapon. God-killing gun paused for a moment. It seemed impossible to break through that sturdy defense. Yi Yi frowned slightly. Next moment, the breath on Wojin's body shrank suddenly. The defense at the neck disappeared instantly. The blade of the god-killing spear was able to pass through Wojin's neck. The slightly wrinkled brows slowly relaxed. Have you solved it? It's still in time. Turning his head and looking into the distance, there is a small dirt slope there. The knight turned his gaze to his chest with difficulty. A hand broke out of his chest at this moment. Someone sneaked into him at some point. While he was focusing on the battle in the distance, he pierced his chest. Heart pierced. The knight knows that his life is near. He gave a wry smile. Today's annihilation made him feel like he was still dreaming. A few minutes ago. Everyone is still treating their wounds in the temporarily found abandoned building. But it's only been a few minutes now. 5 people died cleanly. The sneak attacker behind him retracted the chest-piercing hand, while bringing out a lot of blood. The heart, which was still beating slowly, was brought out together. Pat. Without support, the knight's body smashed to the ground. A large amount of blood was lost, and all the thoughts were consumed. All became the reason for the last straw that crushed the knight. It's just that he's not happy. I don't know if it was the attack. This death seems a little worthless. Struggling to look up. A woman wrapped in purple carapace, but with the same body and limbs as humans. At this time, the beating heart in his hand was handed to his mouth. Scoff tilde. 1 mouthful, 2 mouthfuls. After a moment of effort, this heart has been eaten. Elabella licked the blood from the corner of her mouth, a smile on her face. After completing the master's task, and having an extra snack, I am in a great mood today. Elabella, who had completed the mission, disappeared out of thin air. Aside. Knight's head. I don't know when I fell down and lost my life completely. It was just the lit screen on the ground that seemed to write something. Leader, go quickly, get out of here, the farther you go, the more H. The information is incomplete, it seems that it has not been finished yet, so it is sent out anxiously. Really, no fun at all this time. Blah blah blah. There was a sound of footsteps. The figure with wine-red hair came to the side of the dead knight. It was said that I was asked to deal with the escaped members, but in the end I did it myself, liar. Hisoka looked at the target that belonged to him, and just fell to the ground. A cavity turned into emptiness. Empty-handed, he walked in the direction of Yaiki. Abandoned building. Yi sat on Wojin's corpse to recover his strength. This spider hunting operation exceeded Yi's expectations. I thought I would be lucky enough to meet 2 or 3 members of the brigade at one time. Unexpectedly, this directly encountered 5 spiders. It's an unexpected gain. Kurapika's figure came to Yi's side at some point. Looking at Wojin, who was being used as a bench, she was lost. In her hand are the corpses of several other spiders. In the battle between Yi and Wojin, she couldn't do anything. I want to watch the battle, but I can't see the movements of the two. With nothing to do, all the bodies of the dead brigade members were found. Stacked together. Nobunaga, Maggie, Franklin, Woking. Looking at these 4 corpses, Kurapika was lost. The phantom troop is dead. But why can't she feel a trace of happiness? Is it because I didn't do it myself? Still. After a few minutes, Elabella drained all the remaining thoughts from Wojin, Nobunaga, Maggie, Franklin and others. Flying happily beside Yi, expressing her joy. Ignoring the resentful eyes of Hisoka beside him. Broken Dow 33, King Fire Pendant. A flame suddenly appeared on Yi's palm. Expansion, the flame continued to expand. When it expanded to a radius of 3 meters, the flames shot out of Yi's hands. The bodies of the 4 members of the brigade gradually disappeared under the flames. Finally, a gust of wind blew through. Everything is blown away by the wind. Half an hour later. Seeing that no brigade members came, Yi was a little disappointed. He is also preparing to go fishing and deal with the remaining members of the brigade at one time. But after so long, I must have given up. Gun in hand. A cross cut in the void. A space crack appeared in front of the 2 of them, and the familiar dark and cold aura made everyone tremble. 10 minutes later, a figure came to this abandoned building. After searching for a long time, only one corpse with a hollowed-out heart was found. Tears fell to the ground. Chapter 189 Night falls. Yukishin's nightlife is coming again. But buried in this night, not only singing and dancing, but also the hidden darkness. The temporary base of the Phantom Troupe. Pike Norda, Flake Lev, Finks, Phaeton 4. Staring at Krolo's back. Since returning to the temporary base, the four of them have seen Krolo standing there. Seems to be praying. At this moment, 7 members are missing, plus Krolo's behavior at this time. They have already guessed what happened. I don't know how much time has passed. Prayer is over. Krolo put down the book in his hand. Turn around slowly. The cold look convinced the remaining 4 of their thoughts. Tears pooled in the corners of his eyes. Slowly dripping. Kyubi, Shouty, Nobunaga, Wojin, Franklin, Maggie, and the knights are all dead. The eyes that looked at the remaining 4 were full of coldness. But everyone can see the sadness from this cold face. Hiso and Yaiki are the murderers who killed them. Krolo's tone was very calm. It was like a pool of stagnant water without waves. But under this calm, everyone felt an indelible anger. The death of the 7 members of the brigade. Even if there is already a guess, it can be said from Krolo's mouth that this feeling is completely different from his own guess. 7 people. They know how strong the brigade members are. Even Shouty, the weakest in the ranking, was a character who came out of the hell of Meteor Street. With one enemy 100, it is easy. Brigade members could not have died so easily. 7 people died at one time, which is an unacceptable reality. Absurd. This is everyone's first thought. But Krolo's sadness couldn't be faked. Anger, unbearable anger. The people of Meteor Street never refuse anything, but don't even think about taking anything away from me. But this time, he directly took away 7 companions. Revenge, must revenge. Such humiliation will not be tolerated. Even if the remaining 4 die, the enemy will definitely pay the price. Finks and Phaeton looked at each other. Confirm that the other party's ideas are the same as yours. Captain, this matter can't be left alone. 7 members died at once, more than half of the brigade members. Finks spoke first. Expressed his wishes to Krolo. Phaeton on the side had the same opinion. That's right, we can't just let it go. Wojin and the others can't die in vain, they have to pay the price. Phaeton is not afraid of death. He was born on Meteor Street and has long been accustomed to parting from life and death. Murderers are always killed. Death was no stranger to him. But if the people around him died, the brigade watched indifferently. What's the point of the group's existence? This is the fact that he cannot accept. After hearing the thoughts of Finks and Phaeton, Krolo looked at Pike Norda and Fel-Lev. If the two think the same as Finks. Krolo agreed to take revenge. But as long as one of the 2 objects, he will leave to end the event and return to their previous lives. Absolutely no mention of revenge. By the way, let the brigade recuperate and absorb new members. It can be said that the next fate of the brigade is placed on Pike Norda and Fel-Lev. Revenge, it is very likely that the group will be destroyed, and the Phantom Troupe will disappear from this world. Retreat, can retain strength, the pace of the spider can continue to move forward. The gazes of Krolo, Finks, and Phaeton tossed towards Pike Norda and Flake Lev. The brigade was established to do something wrong. If you don't dare to take revenge even if your own person is dead, this is really the Phantom Brigade. Pike Norda closed her eyes in thought. Yet at this moment. I agree, for revenge, the death of the 7 members of the brigade requires someone to pay. Flake Lev agreed to the choice of revenge without hesitation. The only reason he joined the Phantom Troupe was because of his mischief during the event. As a warrior of the Jachindu tribe, fighting is in his nature. And Flake Lev is very proud of his bloodline. I inherited the blood of the most beautiful fighting family in the world. This is what he once said to the ants. He is a warrior who prides himself on the blood of a fighting clan, and flees without fighting. It's a shame, no, it's a shame. As a warrior of the Chu-Dundu clan, even if he died in the process of revenge, he would not have any regrets. This is his pride as a soldier. The beauty of the mind does not depend on the body. Even though Lev is wrapped in bandages at the moment, even if his flesh is pierced all over. As a warrior, death is the highest honor. Pike Norda looked at Flake Lev with a firm look. There is also a choice in mind. Quote. I also agree. If Wojan and the others are just let go, they will be very lonely. Turn to face Krollo. Pike Norda spoke her mind. So far, the remaining 4 members of the brigade have achieved their will of revenge. Krollo looked at the 4 in front of him. I see. In a word, the goal of the next brigade was decided. Phaeton, you go and investigate the address where the 2 teenagers were caught last time and bring them back. Amazing. Flay Lev, thinks, the 2 of you will find the bodies of Shouty and Cube. Pike Norda, come with me later. Confirm that the next action goal is revenge. Krollo made a decision in an instant. He gave different instructions to the 4 people in front of him. Understood, Captain. *4. Looking at the 4 people who stepped directly into the state, Krollo's expression softened slightly. Wojan, Nobunaga, Franklin, Maggie, don't worry, you have a chance too. For today's situation, Krollo had already prepared for it. I just didn't expect this day to come so soon. Pike Norda, take the corpse of the knight and come with me. Yi may have forgotten, or he may not care. After the knight's death, his body was just thrown on the hillside. It was eventually brought back by Krollo. Occupy. Chapter 190_. The knight's body is relatively well preserved. Apart from the blood hole in the chest and the missing heart, there are no other injuries. At the same time, this also shows that the person who attacked him is far more powerful than the knight. Someone who can do this. Krollo believes that there are not many, and Yi is one of them. Unfortunately, he didn't guess right. Nyenbeast Elbella is equally powerful. Captain, the corpse of the knight, bring it back to Star Street. Or. Pike Norda doesn't know what Krollo is thinking. See him brooding all the time. He opened his mouth to ask. It was just Krollo's reaction that made her a little hard to understand. Pike Norda, back with 50 s, 180 feet s, males before age 20 to 25. Krollo looked at the corpse of the knight. An inexplicable order was given. He turned his back to Pike Norda, sat down slowly, opened a book and read it. Autopsy. Understood, Captain. Pike Norda agreed, and she could not refuse the commander's request. Just more curious about what Krollo is going to do. Spiders move fast. People born in Meteor Street seem to have some habit of being resolute. It only took 10 minutes to bring back a few men who met Krollo's conditions. It's just that the way she brought it back seems a bit rough. 213. Everyone shrugged their heads. Obviously have lost consciousness. Of course, you can't ask a woman born in Meteor Street to know what it means to be gentle. Krollo looked at the few people thrown at his feet. Did not get up. The book in his hand has only been read less than half. Half an hour passed. Pike Norda tirelessly stood by Krollo's side. From time to time, a few people who have woken up will be refilled with a few knives. Although she didn't know Krollo's purpose, as a member of the group, it was enough to just follow the instructions. Slap tilde. Finally, in the expectation of Pike Norda, the autopsy was closed by Krollo. At the same time, it also means that he has completely mastered the above content. He stood up calmly and walked towards the man closest to him. A drop of potion dripped into the man's mouth to ensure that he could not wake up halfway. The Bian-style knife appeared in his hand. After simple disinfection, easily cut through a man's chest. The still beating heart was just exposed to the air. Concoct the remaining 4 men according to law. 5 hearts are beating in this temporary base. Disinfection work is done in advance, and there is no worry about contamination. At the same time, I don't know when a red book appeared in my hand. Open black lens bracket extreme intent of thieves close black lens bracket. The pages have been turned. On this page is a photo of a female capable person and information about her abilities. Sebastian. Age. Trait psychic. Ability, Howl of the Dead. Ability status, unknown. Ability 1, transformation. Transform dead corpses into zombies to help those with abilities fight. Note that this ability can only be used on the dead. The conversion process requires no energy consumption. Ability 2, resuscitation. Sacrifice living beings to the unknown to bring back the dead. The number of people resuscitated is limited to 3, and when the limit is reached, the ability will enter a cooling period of 1 year. Ability 3, mastery. Unconditional control over the transformed zombies and the resurrected dead. Sebastian. It was the resentment that Krollo, Yaiki and Bisuki defeated together in Chime continent. Being able to revive others, Krollo will naturally not let go of such an ability. A few months after acquiring this ability, he has already found out how to use it. Use the ability, revive the object, designate the night. Krollo's voice resounded in this room. Without the usual femininity. It's full of ice at the moment. 4 pitch-black thoughts emerged from the thief's extreme intention. It rushed towards the 4 beating hearts on the ground, as if seeing delicious food. The 4 selected people gradually withered their bodies, and in the end, they were no different from the compressed wooden sticks. Everything about them. Body, blood, internal organs, bones and even soul. All were sacrificed to unknown beings by Krollo. The unknown existence that absorbed everything from the 4 seemed very satisfied. A thought diametrically opposed to the previous one emerged from the thief's extreme intention. He rushed towards the only person left on the ground. After a while, his body repeated the experience of the first 4. It's just that everything about him is more like being gathered in his heart than being sucked by an unknown existence. A beating heart, emitting a scarlet light. Melt into the blood hole in the knight's chest. The wound began to heal, and it soon recovered completely. If it weren't for the blood-stained clothes, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to see the signs of injury. After a few seconds. Bang tilde bang tilde bang. A faint heartbeat sounded from the knight's body. Finally. Under the expectant gaze of Krollo, the knight slowly opened his eyes. Aside, Pike Norda looked at everything that happened in front of her in disbelief. Ukexen. In a luxury hotel room. The sound of clattering in the bathroom kept ringing. Lying in the bathtub, dissipated the tiredness of the day. In one day, the 10 old men were eliminated, and more than half of the brigade members were eliminated. The consumption of spiritual pressure in the body has already exceeded the load. Look at the collapsing jade in the chest. Yi-Yi's face was a little ugly. Since the explosion of the Semetali building, Benyu seems to have absorbed enough souls to evolve to the 2nd stage. Although he can freely use the soul transformation ability. But he could clearly feel that Benyu had entered a dormant state at this time. This is also the reason why he continues to absorb the spiritual pressure in his body every day. To solve this, there is only a large number of killing lives and harvesting souls. Thinking of this, Yi-Yi reached out and tapped in the bathtub. Do you want to go to a country that is still at war? The hunter world has never been safe. The war did not stop. Sudden. A palpitating feeling came to my mind. Boom tilde tilde. More than a dozen roses bloom in different directions in Ukexen City. The only thing in common is that they come out of the air. High in the sky, 8 figures looked at the city shrouded in flames below. A satisfied smile appeared. Chapter 191 Rose. One of the most famous bombs in the hunter world. The common name is the poor man's rose. Small bomb known for its super lethality. One of the bombs banned by the World V5 organization. Of course, in the face of this decent damage, and the ultra-low production cost. Even if production is explicitly banned, there are still many organizations in the world that secretly develop and produce. The power is the same as that of a low-yield nuclear bomb. But the most terrifying thing about this bomb is not the power and radiation it produces when it explodes. It is a biological virus that spreads out along with the radiation when it explodes. Just one rose can easily destroy all life for more than 10 kilometers. At this time, the location where Rose was placed was Ukexin City. The most famous auction in the world is about to take place. Tourists from all over the world are gathering here at this time. There are at least 1 million people living in this city. Rose biological virus. It's a virus that spreads to each other. More than a dozen roses bloomed at the Tuileries. It seems that you can already see the fate that Ukexin will face next. The moment of the explosion. A terrifying white light spread all over the city. The sudden heart palpitations in Yi's heart made him subconsciously resort to several severances. A transparent cuboid is formed. Wrap yourself in it. Next, there is a vibration that lasts for a few seconds. The hotel where Yi was at was on the verge of an explosion. Although it was not hit directly by the explosion, it was severely damaged by shock waves and radiation. 10 seconds passed. The vibrations gradually ceased. Do not. It was because the entire hotel had been fragmented, and there was no condition to continue shaking. The empty cube used by Yi. Standing out of thin air in the original position of the room. It was precisely because of this that he immediately saw the rose smoke in the air in the distance. His brows furrowed instantly. Poor man's rose. Yi is not unfamiliar, even if his memory of the hunter world is not detailed. The rose bomb that solved the Ant King Maloom. When I came to this world, I actively searched for Rose's information and tried to buy a few for emergencies. It's a pity that this world has extremely strict control over Rose. He did not buy roses. I only saw Rose when I was dealing with the Zerg with Nitro. The 2 roses requested were also used to resolve the swarm of insects in the entire archipelago. After that, she never came into contact with Rose again. The scene of a dozen roses blooming together today is indeed a bit exaggerated. You can do this at Ukexin. Yi immediately thought of Krollo. Well, the funeral is really grand enough. Think of the sonata that Krollo played for Wojin when he died. Yi was able to guess Krollo's purpose. So many members died at once. He needs a big funeral. As for choosing to use the poor man's rose, he probably wanted to kill Yiki along the way. The biological virus of Rose has no solution so far. Pity. Yi felt the danger at the moment. He used Duankong to seal himself up to isolate the infection of biological viruses. Of course, Yiki had precautions even if he hadn't used Duankong. When dealing with the swarm, he left in a hurry because he didn't have a gas mask. Yi didn't want to end up in this situation. There are dozens of gas masks in the backpack for emergencies. Right now, it just works. Take out your clothes and put them on. Find the gas mask from the backpack. Yiki's figure flew high into the sky. Looking for traces of the brigade. If you want to put roses in different locations, the only place Yi can think of is the sky. The ability to stay in the air is rare. But not in this world. Judging from the level of Krollo's collection, the ability to create a flight is naturally not a problem. Pity. Yi's idea was right, but they wouldn't wait in the air all the time. Shock, radiation. Even the brigade was unwilling to accept it. Appreciate the explosion happening. Krollo left with everyone. Just when they left, 4 comatose figures were held in their hands. Through the gas mask, Krollo glanced at the city wrapped in roses and left without hesitation. Flowers. Ukexin's night was spent slowly with fire and explosions. This moment is like the end of the world. Chaos is synonymous with Yukishin. The gangsters lost the control of the 10 old men, and they all wanted to become the new 10 old men. The arrival of Rose gave them a chance. I plan to take the opportunity to sneak attack before the other families react. There are not 1 or 2 people who have this idea. Attack and counterattack. Full of gunpowder flavor. The surviving ordinary people stayed in their houses and dared not go out. They are used to the chaos of the Yukeksen gang. As long as they stay in the house, everything has nothing to do with them. As for those foreign tourists, pray for yourself to survive safely. They didn't know that what Rose brought was not just the explosion, but also the unsolvable biological virus. Yi found a hotel again. Luckily it wasn't shrouded in explosions. The front desk staff had no idea where they were going. Randomly found an empty room and kicked the door open. Feel the heat radiating from the collapsed jade in the chest. Close your eyes and meditate. Krolo's grand funeral was cheap. A huge amount of souls poured into Yi's chest. Bengyu gradually woke up from dormancy. At the same time, the spiritual pressure in Yi's body quickly recovered. Just a few minutes. The spiritual pressure in the body is fully restored. He even started to increase Yi's total spiritual pressure. Reiatsu oppression, uncontrolled pressure from the body to the outside. This seems to have turned on a switch. The progress of inheritance unlocking is also improving little by little. 74.08%, 99.98%, 99.99%, 100%. The light of the morning sun shines on Yukishin's ruins. Unlock progress just reached 100%. The total amount of spiritual pressure in the body keeps rising. Yi was immersed in the thrill of strength enhancement. Under the double promotion of Collapse Jade and Inheritance Unlock progress. The total amount of spiritual pressure quickly reached the 3,000 point mark. Sun. Chapter 192_. System panel. Host, Night 1. World, Full-time Hunter. Number of inheritances, 1. Inherited figure, Ichimaru Jin. Unlock progress, 100%. Collapse Jade unlocking progress, Stage 2. Zanpakudo, Spear D solution. Spiritual pressure, 3,000. Ability mastery, Slashing Fist and Going Ghosts, Reiatsu perception, Black Chamber, Soul transformation, Super speed regeneration. The eyes slowly opened. Yi looked at his hands. It feels like there is endless power in the body. However, it was clear at night that this was just an illusion caused by the rapid increase in strength. Get out of the hotel. Walking on the streets of Yukeksen with a gas mask. The desolate scenery makes people completely unable to associate with Yukishin. Overnight. Bodies everywhere, broken houses. The gangsters who fought with each other on 213 did not have a single wound on their bodies, but fell to the ground in batches. Those who survived and tried to escape the city died quickly after leaving their houses. The city is completely dead. Under spiritual pressure. Within 5 kilometers. Just a few breaths of life. But it is also like a candle in the wind, swaying uncertainly. Even the edge of the explosion has become what it is today, not to mention the central area. But what does this have to do with the night? As long as he can live, so what if these people die? Take out the remaining Phantom Troop members. Just leave this dead city. Have a plan in mind. Jingle bell tilde tilde jingle bell tilde tilde. A cell phone rang. The phone still works, which is a little surprising. Yi thought that communication equipment was no longer available in this area. Take out the phone, an unmarked number. Open black lens bracket unknown number close black lens bracket. It is not difficult to get his number. After all, for the sake of business, he has never had the habit of concealing his number. It's just that I'll be calling right now. It should be only him. Hello. The voice is flat. Not at all affected by environmental changes. The other side of the phone was silent. I don't know if I'm thinking, or I'm suppressing the feelings in my heart. I haven't been in touch for a long time, Yi. I didn't expect that we would develop into this situation today. Krolo's voice was cold. He never thought of the change in the relationship between the two today. A few days ago, the two were still happily working together. Now, it has become an irreversible enemy of life and death. All these changes seem to have started with the addition of number 0. Abandoned church on the outskirts. Krolo leaned back on the chair, his eyes lost in thought. If I hadn't seen the divination, maybe what happened today wouldn't have happened. The calendar that should be missing is lucky to be preserved. The tune of condolence is replaced by excitement. Close black lens bracket. The messenger of the god of death withers in the high-pitched music. Close black lens bracket. The composer drags the chains of the fiery eye. Let the month have full hope. Close black lens bracket. Meet the new moon in a higher place. This will be the beginning of everything. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket if you can't do it. Close black lens bracket. The month will gradually wither. Close black lens bracket. The ritual of the moon is performed in a grander melody. Listening to the unforgettable note. Close black lens bracket. The melody of blood will open the chapter of the new overture. Even so, your status is still noble. Close black lens bracket. Abandon the calendar that should not exist. No one can take away your pride and dignity. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket going to the distance. Close black lens bracket. The 12-legged footsteps never stop. Close black lens bracket. The divination prophecy for Nyan. Krolo didn't know how to evaluate it. It does predict everything that will happen this month. Krolo also followed the content of the language. But when they left, because of Hisoka's betrayal, the brigade returned to Yukushin. Next. Just as the prophecy said. The months gradually wither. The ritual of the month is performed in a grander melody. Everything that happened today was foretold by divination. Is this telling him that everything he does has already been set by others? Confused. This emotion should not have appeared in him. At this time, it appeared suddenly. The phone was silent for a moment. Yi guessed what Krolo was thinking at the moment. A smile gradually appeared on his cold face. Regret. That's right. From Krolo's tone, Yi felt a deep regret. Not for himself, but for those who died because of his decisions. This alone made Yi feel happy. Crunch. The hand holding the phone suddenly exerted strength. A fierce light flashed in Krolo's eyes. The aura on his body became colder. For a moment. It was as if an iceberg suddenly appeared, and the icy aura spread. Beside him are 7 members of the brigade. And 4 people who shouldn't be here. Xiaoji and Chi slapped 16, and asked for a pickup truck. The 4 were hung by ropes in the corner, with scars all over their bodies. Especially Kurapika, the owner of her current body as a former member of the brigade. Naturally received more love. Seeing the sudden change in Krolo's breath, Xiaoji was sweating coldly on his forehead. It was the first time he felt such a terrifying aura. Xiaoji grew up in the jungle. The perception of good and evil has almost been carved into the soul. He could feel the sadness in the heart of the person in front of him at this time, as well as the endless evil thoughts. In the face of this terrifying evil thought, the 3 of them, Pika and Lioli, did not perform any better than Xiaoji. Sorry, of course I regret. I regret why I didn't directly end this event. Regret why you agreed to prospective Gringham to join the brigade. I regret why you told the 10 old men your information. What I regret even more is why I didn't solve you directly in Kai Mei continent. The cold voice made all the members present feel pain. This man with a reverse cross tattooed on his forehead was the first time he was so rude in front of the brigade members. Tears in the corners of the eyes slowly slipped from his face. Abandoned church in the suburbs, let's end it. Either you die or I die. You win and take everything from me, I win and take everything from you. The streets of Ukexin City. Yi Yi smiled softly. Interesting, I agree. Chapter 193 Suburban Abandoned Church. Krollo listened to Busy's call. Put down the phone slowly. The hand holding the phone was squeezed hard. Kaka. The phone that became a scrap of iron was thrown aside by Krollo at will. He turned to look at the 7 members behind him. Finks, Phaeton, Pike Norda, Flake Lev, and Drip, EPUB, and Knight. The ability from Sebastian allowed him to resurrect Shouty, EPUB, and Shake. Even for resurrection reasons. The strength is stronger than before. Kobo can copy what has been copied at any time, and even because of the resentment after death, the copy has new functions. A vacuum cleaner for small droplets that can be absorbed along with living objects. Vengeance begins. The white face reveals a resolute belief. The members of the brigade all had happy expressions on their faces. Looking forward to the next revenge. Either success or failure in revenge. The phantom troop never feared death. Smiles appeared on the faces of the brigade members. Death is never a wonderful feeling. This is especially clear to Shouty, Kobo 14 and Shake. But that's why they had to make Yi Yi feel the same pain. Captain, I'm going to personally take out Yi Yi's heart and eat it one by one. The knight smiled and said terrifying words. He didn't forget to see the powerlessness of his heart being eaten bit by bit with his own eyes. Although not his heart. A strange smile emerged. It must be very painful to watch someone important to you die in front of you like this. Phaeton looked at Xiaoji and Chichireshu in the corner. The face covered under the collar showed an excited smile. Yi Yi killed the members of the brigade, so it's not too much to let his relatives and friends pay for his life, right? Unfortunately. Yi Yi was born on Meteor Street just like them. It's a bit unrealistic to try to find his relatives. He focused his attention on his friends and friends. From the point of view of the phantom troop, Xiaoji and Kiji are dipped in plum. As for Liuri and Kurapika, it's the arrest of Xiaoji and Chi Dumpling, who said they were sacks and dumplings. ... Krollo started checking his layout last night. He knew that Yi Yi had the ability to teleport over long distances. That is to say, night will come at any time. Corner of abandoned church. Xiaoji didn't hate Yaiki for being implicated. Look at the 8 people whose breath is gradually darkening in front of them. Will die, absolutely die. Night, don't come. Before they were taken away, they watched a dozen roses explode in Ukexin with their own eyes. If they were not taken away by the brigade, they would have died in the attack of the Phantom Brigade at this moment. At least there is still a glimmer of hope. If it's dead, it's really over. Therefore, there is no hatred for Yi Yi in his heart. Some are just not reconciled to their own weakness. If he has enough strength, at least it will not be the situation where he is easily caught now. Qian watched everything happen in front of him with cold eyes. It is not without resentment that he was caught. To him, it was a complete disaster. His relationship with Yi Yi was not as good as he imagined. Yunji Yu only taught them the basics of reciting, and at most he could only be regarded as an enlightenment teacher. Not even a master. Now, because of this, he was caught by the Phantom Troop as the price of blackmailing Yi Yi. This made him angry. Unfortunately, with his current strength, he can't do anything. Death seemed to be the only ending he could think of. Regardless of whether Yi Yi wins or not in this battle, he and Xiaoji and the others cannot escape the end of death. This is the meaning read from the eyes of the dwarf in front of him. Despair. The thoughts on the body were completely imprisoned and could not be mobilized at all. But he didn't want to let it go. Eyes are banned by darkness. I don't know when the phalanx has changed, bit by bit grinding the rope that binds him. Not a single sound was made. Boom ... Sudden bursts of oppression in the sky. The spiders looked at each other for a moment. Be alert to everything around you. One after another cracks appeared in the air. As the crack appeared, the dark and ominous aura became more and more obvious. Krollo looked at Kobo. In order to facilitate the battle with Yi, the real abandoned church has been destroyed. What we are now in is a replica made by Kobo. After all, Kobo's ability comes with a circle, so you can check the situation at any time. Especially in the current situation. Kobo closed his eyes and felt it. The copied buildings did not feel the breath of Yi. The open space near the building group does not have the same breath of the night. In the vicinity of the abandoned church, I also did not feel the breath of Yi. Nothing was found, and there was no nightly breath in his perception. Well, except for the dark, ominous air above the church. He felt nothing. Shook his head. Click tilde click tilde. Cube shook his head at that moment, the crack in the air suddenly shattered. A gap like the opening of the eyes appeared in the air outside the church. Pat tilde pat tilde. The sound of gentle footsteps came from the gap. Moment. Everyone in the brigade looked at Krollo. However, Krollo motioned to wait. When people are completely out, it is not too late to use the ability. 5 kilometers in the air. Yi's figure stood there firmly. With Reiatsu perception, he observes all the actions of the phantom troop. As for the black accent, it's just a cover to deceive the brigade. Attract firepower by teleporting Elbra into the sky above the abandoned church through a black chamber. Since Krollo chose the place of battle in the abandoned church, there's no guarantee what's in there. After all, no one knows when he returned to the abandoned church. What layouts are made here? Yi is not stupid, let him go to the abandoned church and go there honestly. Fly all the way low. Conditioning his own breath, he came to 5 kilometers away from the limit of perception. Explore the abandoned church for yourself. Not to mention, flying into the sky at night can easily see some things that are usually invisible. Reading array. The smile gradually disappeared. Chapter 194 Yi observed the abandoned church from a high altitude. Can see what it is surrounded by. The height continues to rise. Flying to a height of 1,000 meters, it is almost impossible to see the appearance of the abandoned church. However, Krollo's layout was taken into account. 5 seemingly unrelated buildings are scattered around the abandoned church. But if these 5 buildings are connected to each other, a pentagram pattern appears. The abandoned church is right in the center of this pattern. Yi didn't believe that such a coincidence could exist in the world. Obviously, Krollo and the others made some preparations they didn't know about. Eyes closed. Give an order to Elabella in the black cavity. Get out of the black chamber and destroy everything you see. A smile emerged from the corner of Yi's mouth. I don't know what kind of expression Krollo will have when he sees a mind beast stronger than everyone present in front of him. Will you use your prepared preparations to deal with a mere beast? Yi was looking forward to seeing Krollo's expression. Inside the black cavity above the abandoned church, Elabella received Yi's order and couldn't wait to come out of the black cavity. As a Nyan beast, she is different from those ordinary coquettish bitches. It is a mind beast with self-awareness. No time wasted. Elabella rushed out of the black cavity. Find all structures that can be destroyed. Unfortunately, the abandoned church was the first building she saw. According to Yi's order, destroy all buildings in sight. Both hands are aimed at the abandoned church below. The 10 fingers are broken at the first joint. The spiritual pressure on the body quickly gathered towards the hands into a spiritual pressure group. The dark spiritual pressure, the spiritual mass at the opening of the 10 fingers fractured, flickered, as if it had self-awareness. Next moment, a massive amount of Reiatsu bullets were fired from Elbera's 10 fingers. Densely covered the entire sky. The amount of bullets alone was several times more than Franklin's. Not to mention the exaggerated power. Every aura bomb hits the ground and can blast a hole the size of a basketball. A massive amount of aura bombs formed a barrage, which instantly destroyed the abandoned church below. Honestly killed by Krollo's design. Non-existent. The Phantom Troop is a gang of thieves, and Yi Yi is a killer born. Reckless like a warrior and hard steel on his front. If you play tricks, I will send Nian Beast. Anyway, it wasn't me Yi Yi who got hurt, you can do whatever you want. As for the arrested Xiaoji few people, their life and death are naturally concerned. After solving the Phantom Brigade, if they didn't die, maybe they would be saved for Yungu's sake. But if you die under this barrage attack, sorry, I can only blame them for their bad luck. Inside the abandoned church, Cube kept his eyes closed and was alert to the changes in the black cavity. Captain, someone came out of the crack in the air, but it wasn't Yaiki. It's a woman. The moment Elabella rushed out of the black voice, she reported to Krollo. However, the voice just fell. I felt the terrifying energy gathered in the hands of the master of this figure. Captain, the situation is not right, this person uses the same bullet as Franklin. Quickly inform Krollo. But even so, it was a step too slow. Endless aura bombs instantly descended on the abandoned church. Through the roof, through the wall. Under the perception of Reiatsu, the members of the brigade have nothing to hide. Pass through everything easily, and shoot at the people of the Phantom Troop. He deliberately ignored Xiaoji and the others. Although Elabella is just a beast of mind, she has seen these people with Yi Yi. Infinite aura bullets avoided them subconsciously. Krollo felt the exaggerated aura above him and frowned slightly. Such an exaggerated amount, even he could not avoid it. All come to me. Krollo looked at his members. At the same time, the rogue's extreme intention in his hand kept flipping. A transparent ball appeared in his hand. Throw it to the ground. When the ball hits the ground, it begins to expand. In an instant, everyone who came to him was enveloped. When Elbera's aura bullet hit this ball, it turned into a light spot and shattered. The members of the brigade hiding in the ball did not show a trace of joy. This attack method is exactly the same as that of the dead member Franklin. The power, speed, and ammunition are several times stronger than Franklin's. Like a Franklin who has been strengthened dozens of times. Boom tilde tilde. An aura bomb hit the ball next to it. In an instant, a basketball-sized pothole appeared in front of everyone. All the spiders who saw them frowned. Such power, even a single blow on the body, will cause a lot of injuries. However, what they faced at this time was a barrage composed of spiritual energy bombs. After a few seconds, the orb that enveloped the spider dimmed. The spiders looked at Krollo subconsciously. If it is an ordinary bullet, the spiders can easily dodge. But the aura bomb outside doesn't seem like it can be avoided. There was no surprise on Krollo's face. After the knight was resurrected by his ability, he lost his ability puppet phone. Just like those people who had their abilities stolen from themselves. This made him guess that there is a high probability that the other party has an ability similar to his own. Can gain the power of others. With this guess, Krollo looked for the ability to restrain the dead spider from the ability he had stolen. Whether the guess is correct or not, always prepare in advance. This remarkable Jiao ball is designed to restrain Franklin's ability. Belling's counterattack can exist for 10 seconds, absorbing all ranged damage during this time. After the time limit is reached, the counter ball will shatter. Multiply all attacks received within 10 seconds by 1 to 5 times and counterattack to the attacker. The counter ball is about to reach the time limit. Dense cracks appeared on its body. Boom tilde tilde tilde. In the 9th second, the counterattack ball shattered. An invisible force wrapped the brigade members in the counter ball. Helped defend against Elabella's aura bullet. At the same time, one after another shattered aura bombs condensed in front of Krollo. Counterattack multiplier 3 times. This sentence came to mind. Next moment, thousands of spiritual energy bullets shot out of it. The defenseless Elabella was hit by the aura. Chapter 195 _ Elabella strafes the abandoned church below with an aura bomb. The terrifying number completely destroyed this building in an instant. Look at the abandoned church that collapsed. Elabella looked for her next target. She did not forget the order to destroy all buildings. It's just that when she started to look for a new target, thousands of aura bullets suddenly shot towards her. A dark and ominous atmosphere. Exactly the same as the aura bullets she just fired. The only difference is the change in power. Being hit by the aura bullets from below, Elabella could clearly feel that the power of these aura bullets was stronger than her own. Suffered a sudden counterattack. Elabella's figure fell from the sky. Fall towards the ruins of the abandoned church. Brigade people. Look up into the air. The abandoned church at this time has been completely reduced to rubbish. The original roof has completely disappeared under the barrage attack. The sun shines on everyone. It's a pity that no one can enjoy the beauty of this moment. Don't talk to Crollo. All brigade members are ready to attack. As long as the enemy the moment it hit the ground. Phaeton was confident that he could take her head off with one stroke. Looking at Elabella falling, everyone in the brigade determined the time based on the speed of the fall. Countdown 3 seconds. Phaeton lowered his body, ready to attack. Countdown 2 seconds. Fink's arm has turned around for an unknown number of times, and now it has begun to swell. Countdown to 1 second. The bandages on Lev's body have been undone. The moment Elabella's body touched the ground, the figures of Phaeton, Finks, and Fel Lev rushed forward in an instant. The thoughts flowed like a tidal wave. The air kept vibrating. Time seems to stop at this moment. Invisible eyes gathered on the three of them. It spreads continuously around. The moment when the phoenix eyes converged. The three had already appeared in front of Elabella. The dark thoughts gathered on the umbrella sword, and a dark light flashed in the air. The transparent thoughts condensed in Fink's right arm, and Huishan's strengthening made his attack no weaker than Wojin's super destruction fist. Invisible sound from peeling Lev, the echoes on his body, the thoughts on the glove, even the strengthening system is difficult to resist. Cold smiles appeared on the faces of the three of them. They can't wait to get revenge for Wojin. The first object of revenge was the woman in front of him. Pity. They didn't notice that Elabella's face was still indifferent. There was no concern at all about the situation. Pung tilde. A huge roar came from under Elabella. Dust is everywhere. The moment of landing. Elabella twisted her body in an instant. Reiatsu quickly flowed throughout the body. The shape doesn't seem to have changed. However, he has already used the ability of the reinforcement system to strengthen his body several times. Facing the attacks of Phaeton, Finks, and Fel Lev, there was no evasion. Ding tilde tilde. Attack of the three. It's like hitting hard iron. Makes a crisp sound. But it couldn't do any damage to Elabella. Looking at the unbelievable gazes of the three people in front of her, a bloodthirsty smile bloomed on Elabella's face. Just last second. Yi watched the play silently in the dark. A new order was issued. Kill all enemies who are hostile to you. This command. It can be said that the seal on Elabella has been completely released. Before she became Yi's Nyan beast. But the Zerg who regard aggression and devotion as instinct. The unimaginable desire of human beings to fight affects her thinking all the time. However, the identity of Nyan beast made it impossible for her to act against Yi's will. She has been suppressing her own nature. But today, it was finally lifted. Armor grew on its limbs, and its body became more slender, and a green shell-like mask appeared on its face. A layer of black unknown substance shrouded the fragile neck. Everything is changing in the direction that is beneficial to the battle. Change is complete. Elabella's eyes rolled quickly, as if looking for a suitable target. Ha tilde tilde tilde. A breath of hot air came out of his mouth. A strange flush appeared on the face covered by the mask. Next moment. An arm holding the vacuum cleaner flew high into the sky. Droplet still hasn't responded. The blood kept pouring out. This forced her mind to her arm. Not caring about his image, he rolled aside subconsciously. Boom tilde tilde. A big pit suddenly appeared where she was standing just now. If it didn't roll away, it would have been stepped on by Elbera at this time. The sound of this attack. It also attracted the attention of the rest of the brigade. How is it possible? Finks and the others looked at Elabella in the distance in disbelief. In his perception, he had clearly hit the enemy. But the next moment, she came to Shouty's side. Such an exaggerated speed made him completely unable to react. Beside, it's Phaeton and Flake Lev who have the same reaction as Finks. Captain! Finks subconsciously shouted to Krollo. At such a speed, even a combat member like him could not react. Not to mention the support staff such as Pike Nuoda. Krollo in the distance, naturally heard the call of Finks. Open black lens bracket extreme intent of thieves close black lens bracket. Wow tilde. The pages kept flipping and eventually stopped on one page. On this page is a photo of a female capable person and information about her abilities. Macas. Age, 26. Trait psychic. Ability, gravity aura. Ability status, not dead. Ability introduction. Gravity aura, which applies gravity blessing or gravity reduction to the target. Gravity blessing. It can cause 1x1 approximately 100 gravity blessing to the specified target. Gravity reduction. It can cause 1x1 approximately 100 gravity reduction to the specified target. Blessed by gravity, the multiple is selected to be 30 times. Gravity aura. Must know the name of the adjudicator. When Yi exchanged Wojin and Nobunaga with the knights and others, he revealed the name of Elabella. This fulfills Krollo's condition for Elabella. Chapter 196_. The speed of Elabella that no one can see. Scared the spiders. Therefore, Krollo used the ability for the first time to limit it. Gravity aura. This ability Krollo is not commonly used. It is the first time that such a high multiple blessing has been applied to humans. A halo appeared above Elbera's head. Subconsciously reach out and touch. It seems to be invisible, and the fingers pass directly through the halo and grab a tilde Kong. At the same time, find your body getting heavy. Even the act of reaching out became a lot harder. This scene. The spiders are all watching. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when Krollo's restrictions on Elabella worked. The strength of just a thought beast is already so terrifying. What was the strength of that knight? Dare not think about it. They are afraid of their own fear of Yi and the idea of revenge. It's only been a second since the arrival of Elbella. The spider appeared wounded. If it is not restricted, the brigade will be destroyed in an instant. Quick. What a great speed. In the corner, Xiaoji and Qi were holding on to meet the four of them in a pickup truck. Apart from some dust and house debris, no injuries were found on his body. Qian Nikong shrank suddenly, his expression full of surprise. He may not be as powerful as a spider. It can be seen that in this aspect, it exceeds most of the people present. Beat the enemy family, including almost all levels of ability in the world. There's Maha beaten on it. Them, Zyba beat the enemy, Januo beat the enemy. Ilmi beat the enemy. Not to mention the many housekeepers, basically all have the ability to read. Although Qiguan Yunan too, Huan Rui, he didn't know how powerful his family was until he came into contact with Nian. Dynamic vision gives him the ability to see fast-moving objects. Even if it was just a trace, it made him see some strength. Such exaggerated speed. Of the old ancestor Maha Punch. Elabella's strength is beyond imagination. Chi Pei Yun invading Jesus and destroying K. Krollo can, of course. He knew that only the restraint of speed could not stop Elabella. However, the identity of the beast gave Krollo enough room to operate. Thief's desire. Turn it over again. This time the page stopped over a photo of a man. Benjamin. Age, 22. Operating system. Ability, Mind Beast Control. Ability status, Not Dead. Ability introduction. Use the whip to beat the beast and force the movement of the beast. According to the volume of the mind beast, the amount of mind consumed is proportional to it. A whip appeared in Crollo's hand. It can be said that this ability has been involved in the rules. Just relying on the beast to beat, can forcibly control its movements. This ability, Crollo used to deal with the goddess of mind in Kaimei Continent and Yi Yi together. The second time I saw this ability, it was used to deal with Yi Yi's Nian beast. Yi Yi, who observes everything in secret, involuntarily shook his head. The identity of the beast is still too restrictive. Even if the strength is far beyond ordinary people, there is always a way to target her. Looking at the whip in Crollo's hand, it was about to hit Elabella. However, Yi Yi smiled. Even though Nian Beast's identity is easily restricted, her strength is enough to ignore these restrictions. Church ruins. He looked at the whip that was waving at him. Elabella's mind began to gradually empty. Open black lens bracket automatic operation mode, start. Close black lens bracket. The complexion became mechanized. A cold voice came out of his mouth. Next moment, the pitch-black Reiatsu turned into reality. Like a steady stream of seawater, it poured out crazily, filling the entire ruins. The air became heavy. The suppression of the gravitational halo seems to be dispensable. A terrifying storm gathers. Circling around her. A small wind blade shot out. The Reiatsu that poured out of Elabella's body returned to her body. The terrifying storm that was set off also melted into her body. Also at this moment, Elabella's closed eyes snapped open. The original ear-length short hair stood upright, just like yesterday's Wojin. Moment. Flowers. Dark pupils stared straight at Crollo. Frown. An uneasy feeling enveloped Crollo's heart. Subconsciously, he accelerated the speed of the whip in his hand. Puff. Blood splattered, and Crollo's upper body flew out directly. Mid-air. Although Crollo only had half of his body left, he didn't care about his current situation at all. Automatic operation mode. One of the knight's abilities. Can greatly enhance their own strength. In this mode, ignoring the gravity aura is normal. Puff tilde tilde. A puff of smoke rose into the air. Crollo, who was split in two in the air, was suddenly replaced by a scarecrow. Open black lens bracket strange scarecrow close black lens bracket. In the event of a fatal attack, the injury can be transferred to the scarecrow, while teleporting to a safe location. Single day usage limit, 2/3. The explosion of the Semetally building, Crollo used this ability to escape the disaster. With this ability, Crollo is equivalent to evading fatal damage 3 times a day. Crollo's figure appeared out of thin air a few meters away from Elbera. He looked up at Elabella. At this time, she was slowly retracting her raised right leg. It was this whip leg that directly smashed Crollo's body in two. Powerful Reiatsu. It not only strengthened Elbella's body, but also gave her a more terrifying speed. Under the blessing of this terrifying speed, any attack will have a powerful cutting force. Crollo's transfer completed. Phaeton, Finks, Fellev and others in the distance understood what was going on. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Such strength is simply not comparable to them. Even if he has maintained a 12-point vigilance, he still cannot see the enemy's movements. Such a powerful enemy was the first time they had met in so many years. In the corner, Kurapika looked at Elabella with a complicated look. The first time she met, she thought that this beast had stolen her power. It is because the strength is too weak. But today's picture completely piqued her thoughts. Nian Beast, unexpectedly strong to this point. Sun. Chapter 197_. Feel the power of Elabella. Crollo made a decision. Staring straight at Elabella, guarding with all her heart. At the same time, shouted in the direction of Kobo. Kobo, use the ability. Kobo experienced death, but Nian became stronger. New abilities are thus awakened. Originally, this new ability was reserved for Yi to use. But the current situation continues to hide, fearing that the entire team will be destroyed here. Kobo was safe and sound. Use the newly awakened ability. A thought came out of Kobo's body. It flows towards the replica abandoned church under his feet. Although the abandoned church is shattered, it still belongs to his replica. Ability can still be used. Elabella goes into automatic operation mode. Thinking disappears. He automatically looked at the enemies around him who were posing a threat to him. Look around. Looking at Finks, he was the most hostile among the group. Reiatsu surged to the legs. The body bends forward slightly, and the whole person is in a state of exertion. Finks' mouth twitched slightly. Just judging from the posture of aligning himself, he was going to shoot at him. Cut, have you seen me? I saw Krollo's body split in 2 seconds ago. Finks saw that Elbera's strength was definitely not something he could deal with. Pity. In order for Kobo to use his abilities, someone always needs to delay. Looks like it's me who's procrastinating. Focus on Elabella on the opposite side. The body maintains the escape position. What he wants to do now is not to die. Just drag the time and drag it to the library to use the ability. Next moment. A roar came out. Elbera's figure disappeared from the spot again. Rushed towards Finks. The speed that is indistinguishable to the naked eye makes Finks unable to react at all. Subconsciously like to dodge aside. The barb on the lovely Labella's arm pierced his chest with ease. Even with hard, it cannot be stopped. Elabella didn't give Finks time to react. The exaggerated flexibility made her twist her body directly. Attack again. The Reiatsu on the fist erupted with terrifying fluctuations. Swipe through the air quickly. There was a terrible roar from the friction of the air. Pung tilde tilde. An unskilled straight punch hit Finks. However, at this moment, Finks recovered from the attack just now. Not everyone has the speed and reflexes of Elbella. Damn. This moment. Time became extremely slow. As if someone deliberately slowed down the speed of time. Finks looked at Elabella's fist and hit him little by little. Want to escape. A lot of thoughts erupted from the body. But the body's response has become extremely slow. It was too late to escape this fist with terrifying power. It was cold all over. It seems that he has already seen his next ending. His eyes widened, trying to remember the person who killed him completely in his mind. When the fist was only the last inch away from Finks' head. An unexpected person appears. Finks, who couldn't react in time, pushed it away. Boom tilde tilde tilde. A huge pothole more than 10 meters deep instantly appeared under Elabella's fist. Ultra Destruction Punch. After absorbing Wo Jin's thoughts, he naturally understood how to use this trick. However, it is said to be a super destructive punch, but it is actually a straight punch that contains a lot of power. Elabella stood up. Look at the blood on the fist. Look at the faraway Finks, safe and sound. Some don't respond. Since Finks is fine, whose blood is on his hands? After entering the automatic operation mode, her thinking ability is almost non-existent. It's all about the body's voluntary action. Damn, little drop. Looking at the pieces of clothing in the pothole, Finks looked ugly. At a critical moment, Shouty, who was standing beside Finks, pushed him away. He endured Elabella's attack. Under this fist, he was smashed into slag, and there was no residue except for pieces of clothing. Fatum looked at droplets shards of clothing. Anger filled his heart. The anger of Wo Jin and others dying poured into his brain together. Tap your feet quickly. After using the super destruction fist, the body will have a 1-second period of exertion. This is his best offensive opportunity. The umbrella sword in the left hand was enveloped by the dark thoughts. Run quickly. In terms of speed, Phaeton ranked first in the brigade. He was the only spider who could barely keep up with Elabella's speed. A vague afterimage flashed by. Phaeton's figure appeared in front of Elabella. After Elabella entered the battle state, armor grows on its limbs, and a green shell-like mask emerges from its face. A layer of black unknown substance shrouded the fragile neck. Defense ability is greatly improved. The only place to start seems to be the body. The umbrella sword quickly slashed towards Elabella's chest. Tried to cut her chest open. Unfortunately, Phaeton is very fast. But Elabella was faster than him. Before the slash comes, put your left arm on your chest in advance to resist this sudden attack. At the same time, the free right hand quickly turned into a hand knife. He slashed towards the Phaeton in front of him. Puff! A 10-centimeter long wound appeared on Phaeton's body. You can even see the beating heart through the wound. He couldn't help but spit out blood. But the strength in his hand suddenly increased a bit. Do not. More than just power. Even the thoughts on his body suddenly became much stronger. Open black lens bracket. The unforgivable person close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket burned by the hot sun close black lens bracket. These are two of Phaeton's abilities. A person with unpardonable sins uses the embodied chi to create a garment with many awls and only exposed eyes, so as to prevent himself from being affected by his own abilities. Burned by the scorching sun, according to the degree of his injury, he used his mind to create a small sun with considerable power and range. And at the same time use the inexcusable to protect themselves. The size of the power of the move refers to the degree of damage received by oneself. Although he did not use the scorching sun at this time, the bonus to himself can still be enjoyed. He kicked Elabella in front of him, while keeping a distance from it. A lot of thoughts poured out of him. Looking at this appearance, Felov and Finks, who were waiting for help at any time, widened their eyes. Subconsciously, he ran behind Crollo. Chapter 198 _ Finks and the others ran behind Crollo. Phaeton's situation changed. Wang tilde. A mind several times stronger than himself suddenly burst out from Phaeton's body. The surrounding air seems to be affected by this. A steady stream poured towards Phaeton. Centered on Phaeton. A new eye appeared at his feet. Sharp wind blades roamed everywhere. Ding ding tilde. The wind blade blew against the mask on Elbera's face. The sound of iron clattering. Phaeton's thoughts were accompanied by the continuous aggravation of the chest injury. Start to soar. Soon, his face turned pale. Blood kept flowing from his chest, causing him to lose a little too much blood. However, he had no idea of using chanting to promote wound healing. He even took the initiative to reach out and expand the wound with an umbrella sword. Facilitate the flow of blood faster. Dark thoughts charged from Phaeton to the sky. It was like a jet black beam of light connecting the heavens and the earth. This is full of dark and malicious thoughts. It made the four people hanging in the corner even more desperate. Leo Lee was hanged in the air, and his body was covered with scars. Tears were streaming down my face at the moment. He is still a freshman who has not even learned the four majors. Is it really good to let him see such a terrifying world like this? Xiaoji looked worried. I thought that after learning Nian, my strength was different from before. But the blows suffered today are more serious than ever. He didn't know if Elabella could withstand such an attack. Only Chi-Chi took advantage of the spider's attention and secretly increased the cutting force. Far away. Phaeton's thoughts at this time seemed to have reached the peak. Started to gather his powers overhead. The faces of the members hiding behind Crollo deepened. Even the scorching sun in the normal state is too powerful for them to bear. Now this strengthens the scorching sun dozens of times. I'm afraid it's impossible to resist. Only Crollo remained calm. As long as you enter the different space with the one behind you at the moment of the explosion, you can easily escape the damage of the explosion. Therefore, he is not afraid of Phaeton's abilities. In contrast, he was more worried about Phaeton's body. Such an exaggerated improvement also represents the seriousness of his physical injury. Wait until the scorching sun is released. Taking a lot of thought in an instant will undoubtedly aggravate Phaeton's injury. Phaeton was unaware of Crollo's concerns. He put all his energy on Elabella at this time. You give me back the pain, I give you back the pain. The voice falls. Hum tilde. With a burst of inexplicable pressure. Phaeton's thoughts became even more terrifying. A great deal of thought flows around the body. Next moment. There was a dress on his body that looked like he was wearing a sacrificial dress. This dress has many awls, but only the eyes are exposed. Elabella shook the blood from her hand. Place the target on Phaeton. In just 1 second, the aura of the person in front of him was dozens of times stronger. The level of threat is far greater than that of Finks. The body subconsciously thinks that the person in front of him needs to be solved. Reiki gathers under your feet. Pung tilde. A round pit appeared on the ground, and the round pit was full of cracks in the shape of spider webs. Elabella's figure disappeared instantly. When she appeared again, she was already in front of Phaeton. The sword in the right hand gathers Reiatsu. Without reservation, he slashed at Phaeton again. It's like slashing his chest before. Pity. After entering the automatic operation mode, all Elabella's actions are mainly based on the self-action of the body. He completely ignored Crollo in the distance. Open black lens bracket extreme intent of thieves close black lens bracket. Open again. Gravity aura used again. Blessed by gravity, the multiple is selected to be 50 times. Elabella's movements suddenly slowed down. This gives the Phaeton an opportunity to attack. Let's get hot, become hot. The thoughts of the whole body instantly condensed into a small group of thoughts in front of him. However, it was this thought group that made all the spiders who knew it subconsciously retreat a few steps. Even they don't want to face this ability of their companions. The unpardonable man. Moment. The choir flew into the air. Beneath Phaeton's face, which was covered by a fireproof suit, was a distorted smile. Burned by the scorching sun. The thought group that flew into the air began to change. Wang tilde. Sudden. The small choir swelled rapidly. In almost an instant, it instantly swelled into a terrifying miniature sun. The small sun emits a fiery red glow. Exudes terrifying heat. Vaporize everything around you. Replica of an abandoned church devastated by Elabella. Become more broken. It seems that the injury this time is too serious, and the bonus of Nyan is more than before. The small fiery red sun is constantly changing. It turned black in an instant. It emits more terrifying heat than before. Everyone in the brigade had already stepped back. Hiding behind Crollo. An invisible shield appeared in the library Lolo's hands. Barely withstood a steady stream of terrifying heat waves. Phaeton uses his abilities. Look towards Elabella. At this time, under the control of 50 times the gravity, her speed became slow and impracticable. It's hot. Twisted laughter came from under the fire suit. The temperature from the air became even more exaggerated. The dark miniature sun has swelled to nearly 20 meters. Let's face despair. The invisible shield in Crollo's hand became almost invisible. It seems that it cannot withstand the heat at this time. One after another, dark rays of light spread from the fireball. At the beginning of the rays of light, dark flames ignited. The 4 who were hanged in the corner. Even more sweaty. Skin loses moisture. The hair on the body started to curl. There was a wisp of smoke on his clothes. Apparently about to burn at this terrifying temperature. Crucial moment. Chi Peptone's fingertips used force, and instantly broke the broken thought rope. Freedom was restored. His voice was loud enough to attract the spider's attention. But at this moment, they have no mental strength to break free. The terrifying pitch-black fireball in the air seemed to have reached its limit. Starts flickering continuously. Chapter 199 _ Small sun over an abandoned church. Expands to a diameter of about 20 meters, it reaches its limit. Stop expanding and start compressing. However, the compressed small sun, the heat not only did not decrease. On the contrary, become more exaggerated. When compressed to a size of 5 meters, the miniature sun has become unstable. Starts flickering continuously. Smiling. Phaeton looked at the miniature sun compressed to the extreme above and smiled happily. This is the first time he has used his abilities to such an extent. Looking at Elabella in front of her, she didn't know when she had run to him from a distance of 3 or 4 meters. This distance is dangerous. As long as Elabella exerts a little force, he can be easily killed. Unfortunately, one step too late. Sunshine, let it burst, blazing sun. Boom .. 1 kilometer away. Yi watched as a fireball with a diameter of 100 meters was detonating. Just like the sun falling into the ground, the soil, steel, cement, etc. are all vaporized. Boom .. boom .. There was a buzzing in the ears, and the heat wave was blowing head-on. Yi stretched out his hand to condense the spiritual pressure. A transparent Reiatsu shield stood in front of him. Far away. The sun is blooming and burning everything. Pity. Elabella, her current identity is a beast. There is no such thing as death. Facing, scorched by the scorching sun, it is only a state of serious injury. The figure gradually faded, and disappeared in place in a moment. Abandoned churches have disappeared out of thin air. A deep pit with a diameter of about 200 meters appeared on the spot. I'm really scared to death, such a terrifying fireball, I really don't want to see it a second time. Sudden. Leo Lee's voice came from not far away. Eyes opened suddenly. Yi looked at the 4 people who suddenly appeared in his perception. Not sure what to say. He was clearly in the center of the explosion, but mysteriously appeared beside him. This kind of ability made Yi think of space movement, teleportation, time pause and so on. But these 4 people obviously do not have such ability in his memory. Thanks to Leo Lee, use the ability to bring us out, otherwise we are really finished. This was Xiaoji's voice, but it was somehow related to Leo Lee. I didn't think too much about it, I just thought that I could escape from there, and as a result, I suddenly have this ability. Silly voice. ... I ignored the 4 who ran away. Yi walked towards the ruins. Elbera is a Zerg, even if it evolves into a human form. Can't really compare to humans. Her heart is too immature, and she doesn't understand the darkness of human hearts at all. He was just slapped by Crollo. In a short period of time, I am afraid that I will not be able to come out to play. However, the purpose of summoning her has been achieved. Destroying Crollo's elaborate layout was enough. A kilometer is not too far. 10 seconds. Came to this abandoned church at night. Do not. It should be said that it is the ruins of the original abandoned church. A deep pit with a diameter of about 200 meters replaced it. Did not stop. A figure lay in this deep pit. Phaeton. In order to gain more power, he continued to expand his injuries. It has long exceeded his own tolerance. The next attack, which was dozens of times stronger than his own strength, drained all the thoughts in his body. This moment. When he was at his weakest. Lying in the deep pit, breathing hard. As long as it is a person, it can solve him at this moment. Step tilde. There was a sound of footsteps. Let him barely open his eyes to look at the person coming. Puff. A mouthful of blood spit out from his mouth. He remembered that Elbella was nothing but the beast of the man in front of him. Even if the Nyan beast is eliminated, the man will not suffer any damage. Yi Yi bent down and grabbed Phaeton's hair. Pick him up. Look at the carbonized wound on his chest. Can't help but admire his determination. In order to stop the bleeding, he abruptly used his ability to carbonize all the vicinity of the wound. Damn, damn. Phaeton's eyes were filled with hatred. Unfortunately, he was powerless at the moment. He made a mistake, this time he made a mistake. Stimulated by the death of Xiaodi, stimulated by the death of Wu Jin et al. It made him lose his sanity. Forget the fact that Elbera is just a beast. Self-mutilation in order to acquire mind, overuse of ability and into a state of weakness. His starting point is good. It's a pity that Elabella is not a knight. Even if he was seriously injured, it couldn't affect Yotsuba himself. Looking at the peaceful appearance of the knight, Phaeton's mood gradually calmed down. The failure this time is not in Yi Yi, but in himself. His misjudgment cost him his life. Kill me, Meteor Street people. This sentence is spoken in Meteor Street language. Phaeton is not afraid of death. When he killed the first person, he was ready to be killed by others. Murderers are always killed. Meteor Street, a place abandoned by gods. Open black lens bracket. We don't reject anything, but don't try to take anything away from us. Close black lens bracket. Even life, don't even think about taking it away from him. Phaeton's life was handed over to Yi Yi by him. It was not taken away by Yi Yi. Therefore, he faced death calmly. It's good to go all the way. It's over. Compatriots. The same Meteor Street language was issued from Yi Yi's mouth. The icy voice made Phaeton struggle to lift his head. The face of the knight is deeply recorded in the soul. Scoff tilde. A hand knife pierced Phaeton's heart. Pull out, wipe hands, and leave. Just turn to look again before leaving. The body of the Meteor Street man lay peacefully on the ground. The flame flew out of his hand and hit the Meteor Street people on the ground. The 54 breakthroughs. Abandoned flame. The flames burned the body completely, leaving no trace. Even with Sebastian's abilities, he could not be resurrected. Phaeton's eyes before his death made Yi Yi appreciate it. Avoid being played with the soul by Crollo. You know, the soul of the knight is still in the collapsed jade at the moment. Then, who is the knight next to Crollo? Chapter 200_. Yi Yi continued to move forward. The breath of Crollo and the others was not far ahead. Cough cough. Finks spat out the blood remaining in his mouth. At this point he was covered in scars. Unspeakable embarrassment. The power of Phaeton, scorched by the scorching sun, has reached an unprecedented height. Open black lens bracket. Traveler close black lens bracket. The body travels into a different dimension, with a time limit of 10 seconds. However, because too many people were brought into the different dimensional space at one time, the time was shortened from 10 seconds to 3 seconds. In these 3 seconds, even if everyone desperately fled, come out from the different dimension space, everyone was still affected by the aftermath of the small sun explosion. Phaeton, Captain, Phaeton he. Kube's perception ability, thanks to his ability, is exceptionally excellent. He could easily sense the changes in the breaths of Yi Yi and Phaeton. In the perception, Yi Yi's breath changed for a moment. Then it returned to normal again. Unlike Phaeton, it is so weak that it cannot be traced. After meeting Yi Yi, the breath completely disappeared. He has experienced this many times. Never made a mistake. Phaeton's ending, he already knew. Yeah, I see. Crollo's voice was slightly sad. He wasn't surprised by Phaeton's death, and when he saw his ability to use it beyond the limit, he was already prepared. An emotion called sadness flashed through my mind. But the next moment, regained his sanity. He is the brain that leads the spider forward and needs to be sane at all times. Che, is that guy dead? There's really no way. There is one more person to help with revenge. A sneer. Finks doesn't care whether Phaeton is dead or alive. Unlike Wo Jin, He did not take the lives of everyone in the brigade too seriously. To him, the deaths of the brigade were not important. The important thing is that the brigade was provoked. Revenge is necessary. The indiscriminate use of power, Nyan is completely consumed. I was taken advantage of the opportunity to get a bargain. This can only be blamed on himself. He even forgot the difference between a beast and a real person. This ending is already doomed. He said Phaeton without hesitation. Peeling Lev on the side was the same as him and looked normal. Not saddened by Phaeton's death. For them, death is a normal thing. Captain, it's time to prepare. Yi Yi is only a few hundred meters away from us. Kubei's voice came from under his hair. At the same time, several Bloodvine replicas were taken out by him. Hand it to the people. Resurrection after death allows him to copy what he has copied at will. Bloodvine is no exception. Pike Norda took the Bloodvine replica, but did not take it. She did not participate in the battle in the abandoned church, and there was not a single wound on her body. As a non-combatant, her strength is not strong. Against Elbira, he couldn't hold on for a round. Instead of dying there pointlessly, contribute in the ensuing battle. The same people who have never been injured are Kubei and Shake. 3 similarities. They are all non-combatants and weak. Least threatening to Elbella. Finks, Fellev, and Krollo took the Bloodvine and quickly recovered their injuries. 10 seconds later. Ta tilde ta tilde ta. A crisp footstep sounded from a distance. The 3 people who closed their eyes and recovered, suddenly opened their closed eyes. A figure walked out of the jungle not far away. All the spiders looked over subconsciously. Night 1. Krollo's voice was cold. Seeing this guy in front of me kills me, multi-member man. Emotions fluctuated in an instant. He thought that when he saw Yi Yi, he would be angry and want to kill him to pieces. This is to comfort the souls of Wojin and others. Can really see the night. Instead, his heart was calm. Long time no see. Finks and Fellev subconsciously approached Krollo. Put on a wary stance. Unfortunately, they didn't know how powerful Yi Yi was. The vigilance of the two was almost nothing in Yi Yi's eyes. As long as he wants to, he can completely solve the two in an instant. Ignore Finks and Flake Lev. Yi Yi's eyes met Krollo's. A cold smile appeared. Yeah, we haven't seen each other for a few days, and after we say goodbye this time, we'll never see each other again. Killing intent and malice all converged. The conversation between the two was like a long-lost friend. But everyone present knew that the relationship between the two had been extremely bad. To the point of life and death. The scene became quiet. No one spoke again, as if they were waiting for something. The suburban environment is good. There are forests everywhere. The moment the breeze blew through these woods, a rustling sound sounded. At the same time, there are also the brigade and the Night One. Finks and Flake Lev rushed forward in an instant. Target, Night One. Pike Norda stepped aside, her revolver aimed at Yiki. Always be ready for remote support. Kubei pushed his hands towards the ground. This land is covered with a layer of dust that he copied. Using the new ability is enough. The experience of using the abandoned church has made him experience the use of new abilities. Not as slow as last time. Krollo, the pages of the book keep turning. Using an ability that only he knows. Only the knight stood in place and watched everything that happened in front of him. The smile on his face didn't change. It's like enjoying a wonderful drama. Far away. Yi Yi looked at the people in front of him and raised a little interest. No ghosts, no Zanpakuto. To deal with an enemy of this level, it would be overkill to use these abilities now. The body leans forward slightly. Reiatsu covers both hands. He looked at Finks and Flay Lev who were rushing in front of him. The hand knife cut through the air and whimpered. A silver light flashed across the sky. Puff. Blood splashed in the air. Yi Yi's shot was too fast, and the two of them hadn't seen clearly when Yi shot. His head was beheaded. There were stunned expressions on the two heads.